Shanks began to wonder if the swordsmanship he had practiced before was fake. This is outrageous. Looking at the vacuum sword in front of him that was formed simply by slashing, Shanks had reason to believe that even if the person standing here now was his best friend who was the world's greatest swordsman. You will definitely be shocked and speechless, right? For the swordsman in this world, the skills displayed by Lin Yan are simply incredible. As long as anyone who is advancing in the way of swordsmanship, no matter who they are, they will probably be shocked when they see this amazing skill. With an expression as if the door to the new world had been opened, Shanks stared at his fingers for a long time before he finally came to his senses. The man couldn't help but reveal a wry smile. This is really a complete loss. So, how exactly is it done? Shanks came back to his senses and looked at Lin Yan with a wry smile. Even if you already understand the principle. But Shanks also knows very clearly that if he wants to recreate it, he probably won't be able to do it. Not to mention how outrageous it is to completely control one's body. Even if it can be achieved, it is definitely not something that ordinary people can achieve if they want to achieve the state of doing whatever they want like Lin Yan. In this regard, Shanks is very disappointed. This is completely a magical skill that transcends human limitations. Shanks was also very open-minded about this. After a brief shock, his face turned into pure curiosity again. With such a mentality, he is worthy of being one of the 4 emperors on the sea. Persistent exercise and a little enlightenment. Of course Lin Yan wouldn't tell anything about infinite martial arts, he just waved his hand perfunctorily. What a monster. Shanks rolled his eyes and complained, and soon stopped caring about it. He raised his arms with a hearty smile on his face. Let's have a party. Today is a day worth remembering. As said before, what Shanks loves is adventure and distance, so banquets are naturally a must. This man is called red-haired. Both body and soul are free. Should I say that you are still the same as before, coming here to break up a fight and still want to take advantage of the banquet? I really belong to you. Lin Yan glanced at Shanks with some disgust and said. The latter, of course, didn't care at all. By now, the atmosphere had completely relaxed. The biggest crisis in the Golden City has been lifted, and the duel between Shanks and Lin Yan has come to an end. Everyone can't help but have a relaxed smile on their faces. The next banquet will naturally come as scheduled. Although due to Tezzolo's previous notice, the entire Golden City was almost empty, so in fact, these were the only participants in the banquet. But everyone knows it. The excitement of a banquet has nothing to do with the number of people. It's better to say it's just Shanks. It's enough to lighten up the atmosphere. Master Lin Yan, I cannot thank you enough for your kindness. Tezzolo raised his glass to Lin Yan with a cheerful smile on his face. Compared to the zombie-like appearance he had before, it can be said that he is completely alive now, with a sincere smile on his face that he has not seen for a long time. Although until now, Tezzolo didn't know how Lin Yan did such outrageous things, but no matter what, the man in front of him was his great benefactor. Seeing the sincere smile on Tezzolo's face, Lin Yan did not refuse and also raised his glass with a smile. How's the situation? It couldn't be better. She has been placed in a safe place by me. I also confirmed this when I came back. Tezzolo smiled heartily. His face was full of expectations for his future life. After drinking all the wine in his glass, Tezzolo pondered for a moment and suddenly cast an apologetic look at Lin Yan. Master Lin Yan, I may not be able to join your pirate group in a short time. After all, Stella. Tezzolo said hesitantly. After finally finding his true love, he could not let it go no matter what. Tezzolo could no longer imagine what he would be like if he lost it again. So the most important thing for him next is to find an absolutely safe place for his beloved. In response, Lin Yan just smiled and nodded. There was no surprise on his face. Just fulfill your previous commitment first. As for safety issues, you might as well go to the Whitebeard Pirates. The Whitebeard Pirates. That's it. Tezzolo heard this. His eyes suddenly lit up. Yes. How could he forget this? The Lin Yan in front of him is the captain of the 17th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, a member of the Overlord of the Sea. If so, there is no safer place in the world. Tezzolo's eyes looked a little excited. But seeing the man's excited eyes, Lin Yan poured cold water on him. Don't be too happy. You really want to join, but you need someone's approval. Lin Yan said to Tezzolo. After what happened with Blackbeard, Whitebeard has become a lot more cautious now. Newcomers who want to join the Whitebeard Pirates must obtain everyone's approval. Although Tezzolo now seems to have changed his ways. But don't forget, he was once a villain, as said before. A person's path is gone, and a mistake is made. How can it be easy for a person like Tezzolo to be recognized by all the members of the Whitebeard Pirates? If there is not enough air volume, Whitebeard will never approve it. I understand. However, after hearing Lin Yan's merciless words, Tetzolo's face showed no trace of disappointment. Instead, he nodded his head very seriously. Everyone must pay the price for what they have done. Tetzolo is no exception. In order to gain the approval of everyone in the white group and Lin Yan in front of him, Tetzolo has decided to go all out and face his past. Seeing this, Lin Yan also nodded slightly. Let me ask, what should a man's consciousness be? Different people may have different opinions. But in Lin Yan's view, when a man chooses to face the tragedy of his past, truly pays for what he has done, and has the consciousness to pay a high price, such a person is worthy of redemption. This is where a man's temperament lies. A person who cannot save himself is not eligible for salvation. Looking at Tetzolo's extremely determined eyes at this moment, Lin Yan somewhat recognized the man in front of him. Thinking about it, Lin Yan raised the wineglass in his hand. I look forward to the day when I can be your companion. Well said. Seemingly noticing the conversation between Lin Yan and Tetzolo, Shanks also came over with a glass of wine and extended a thumbs up to Lin Yan. Shanks at the party, he is always the one with the heartiest smile. Tisk tisk, he is a man who owns 1/5 of the world's Baileys. Now you, the Whitebeard pirates, have become rich. Taking a sip of wine, Shanks couldn't help but joke. Hearing this, Tetzolo smiled and shook his head. Now I am a pauper, Tetzolo said with a smile. There was no trace of embarrassment in his words. Now that he has got what he wants most, he also has a goal. Tetzolo himself doesn't care at all about becoming a pauper again. Oh. Is there such a thing? When Shanks heard this, he looked at Tetzolo in surprise. Then he seemed to have thought of something and immediately approached Lin Yan with a smile. Brother Lin, can you borrow some money to spend? Roll. In response, Lin Yan just said one word lightly. Ha 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 ha. Shanks laughed immediately and didn't seem to mind at all. Others noticed this and cast a somewhat helpless look at him. Who would have thought that one of the 4 emperors in the sea would have such a character? But let's talk about it. Shanks' cheerful personality has also won a lot of favor from everyone. No wonder he has always been called a person with face fruit ability. This personality charm is still there to some extent. Among everyone present, the one who enjoyed the banquet the most was probably Shanks. After a hearty laugh, Shanks sat down in front of Lin Yan, looking like he didn't recognize himself at all. Lin, are you short of money? Shanks looked at Lin Yan curiously and asked. That's a little bit. As you can see, I'm a pauper. Lin Yan didn't mean to deny it, even if there is still a lot of treasure. But facing 2 big money-eaters, the holy grail of the netherworld in the train of time, he was indeed short of money. Captain Du of the 17th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates is actually a poor man. You are the only one who can say that, right? Upon hearing this, Shanks shrugged noncommittally. Is it possible that Lin, all you want is treasure? Shanks looked at Lin Yan with a trace of scrutiny. As said before, people always want something. Some do it for treasure, some do it for women, some do it for dominance, and some do it simply for evil. Even Shanks himself has something he wants extremely much. Shanks sees nothing wrong with this. It would be better to say that this is how human beings can move forward. But if it's just for wealth, there is a saying that if Lin Yan really thinks so, Shanks will be a little disappointed. But Shanks also believed in his own vision. How could a man with such conqueror's hockey and power not even have this bit of courage? And that's exactly what happened. Wealth is just a bargaining chip for some of my means. If I have any ambition, I just want to watch some people roll off the throne. Faced with Shanks' probing eyes, Lin Yan just responded lightly. Oh, this is really amazing. Hearing what Lin Yan said, Shanks immediately showed a hearty smile on his face. Make someone roll off their throne. Isn't that what we are talking about, celestial dragons? It's not like he, Shanks, can't even understand this. In other words, the man in front of him has the ambition to subvert the entire world. And most importantly, what Lin Yan wants is not dominance. Thinking about it, Shanks looked at Lin Yan solemnly. Lin, what do you want? Just do it as you please, no regrets. Lin Yan just replied lightly. He couldn't stand the evil appearance of the celestial dragons, so he wanted to kick those bastards off the throne. Tetzolo, Hancock, and Fisher Tiger were all the same for Lin Yan. Same as the Shanks in front of me. Lin Yan is by no means a messenger of justice. It's just that the road is rough. Make yourself unhappy. They all have to die. Peeved, ha ha ha. Your dream is much bigger than mine. Yes, it suits me very well. Drink. It seemed that he did not expect Lin Yan to give such an answer. Shanks laughed heartily. But at the same time, there was a hint of caution in his eyes when he looked at Lin Yan. Maybe it looks like that. There is nothing extraordinary about Lin Yan's idea, It is just about leaving no regrets, but Shanks knows very well that it is not easy to do such a thing. How can anyone have no regrets? To do what Lin Yan said. In addition to being extremely powerful, you also need to have great courage. Just like the captain he once was. That person never considered what was reasonable in doing things, he always acted haphazardly, and in the end, that person became the key to an era. In Lin Yan, Shanks saw exactly the same possibility. Do it casually without any regrets? Simply translate it as becoming the strongest and subverting the entire world. Shanks raised his glass high, and at this point, he recognized from the bottom of his heart that the Lin Yan in front of him was the same as the captain he once was. For people born in the same era as them, I don't know if it's luck or misfortune. For the next period of time, Shanks rarely talked nonsense. Just sitting in front of Lin Yan, pouring wine and laughing heartily. This is how he always treated his friends. The lively banquet didn't end until late at night, and Shanks, who was full of wine and food, was ready to say goodbye. After leaving a message of looking forward to seeing you again in the future. Shanks turned around and left alone, and soon disappeared. As said before, the man named Shanks is free from body to soul. Lin Yan didn't care much about this either. When everyone started to clean up the mess, Lin Yan stretched lazily, said hello to everyone, and then went back to rest. However, today is destined to be a sleepless night. Lin Yan had just laid down and closed his eyes for a while when footsteps suddenly came from in front of his door. Lin Yan was stunned. Come to find yourself at this time? Seriously? Thinking about it, Lin Yan spoke lazily. The door is unlocked, come in. After hearing Lin Yan's words, the figure outside the door seemed to hesitate for a moment, and finally gritted his teeth and pushed the door open. The person who came was none other than Momosagi, who had never had any presents before. Good evening. Good evening. Lin Yan looked at Momosagi, who pushed in the door with some surprise. Under the girl's slightly red face, he raised the corner of his mouth and smiled. What do you need from me? Lin Yan asked Momosagi with a smile. Honestly, Lin Yan was a little surprised that the girl suddenly came to him at this time. And thinking back carefully, Momosagi seemed to have said very little at the banquet before, always looking like he was thinking about something with his head down. Originally, Lin Yan thought she was just uncomfortable. After all, no matter what, Shanks is a little too cheerful. As a marine, Momosagi probably has never seen such a scene. But now it seems, this is worrying. Lin Yan immediately became excited. Of course, this is not about gloating, but as the captain, Lin Yan feels it is necessary to counsel the crew on their psychological problems. Well, that's right. Not because it's fun. Absolutely not. Thinking about it, Lin Yan stood up, nodded seriously, and then looked at Momosagi, who was a little confused. So where do you feel uncomfortable? Momosagi was strangely silent for a moment, then waved his hand with a smile. No, I'm fine. Thank you, Captain, for your concern. Momosagi's tone seemed hesitant. Then under Lin Yan's somewhat strange gaze, the girl took a deep breath and spoke directly without breaking the jar. I want to know how I can be as strong as you, Captain. Momosagi looked at Lin Yan with burning eyes and asked. At the banquet before, she just kept thinking about these things. In this battle, he was the only one who couldn't help at all. I used to think that the strength of Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral was already very good, but after seeing the performance of Ain and Hancock before, Momosagi began to doubt life. How come these people are as strong as ghosts? Lin Yan didn't need to say more. He didn't expect that the two girls he spent time with every day would actually have such terrifying strength. Momosagi began to feel a sense of urgency. That's why he came to the door at this time regardless of whether he would be misunderstood. I see. Hearing Momosagi's question, Lin Yan immediately understood and nodded with a smile. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel a little disappointed inside. What about the life negotiation you agreed on? I am ready to start playing the role of a close brother. Is this the result? A hint of disappointment flashed across Lin Yan's face. Momosagi seemed to notice the fleeting expression on Lin Yan's face, and let out a light sigh. Captain, is this my imagination? Why do you feel a little disappointed? That's absolutely not the case. Of course, Lin Yan immediately denied it. Then he put on a serious expression on his face. All in all, I do have a way to make you stronger, but... Seeing Momosagi's surprised look, Lin Yan pressed his hand to signal the girl to calm down, and then continued. Of course there are ways to become stronger, but Momosagi, do you want to simply increase your strength like Hancock and the others, or do you want to improve on your existing abilities? Lin Yan asked Momosagi somewhat seriously. If the girl chooses the former, then of course it will be easy. The Holy Grail of the Netherworld only needs to be used once. Facing the crew members he trusts, Lin Yan will certainly not be stingy with anything. But at the same time, Momoshiki is also a powerful swordsman, and Haki is also quite skilled. If he continues on this path, Momoshiki will have power comparable to the Marine Admiral in the future. In other words, Momoshiki is a great talent. As a candidate for the grand prize of Naval Headquarters, Momoshiki's talents are by no means comparable to those of ordinary vice admirals. In view of this, Lin Yan still hopes that Momoshiki will stick to his own path, and with his help, he will definitely go further than in the original work. Lin Yan has always had a clear plan for the future of the crew around him. It seems that he did not expect Lin Yan to say this. Momoshiki was stunned for a moment, and then made his choice almost without hesitation under Lin Yan's admiring eyes. "Captain, I want to learn your swordsmanship." Momoshiki said this very firmly. Rather than the sudden surge in power, she believed more in the sword in her hand and what she had. After seeing Lin Yan's terrifying sword skills before, Momoshiki had the idea of learning. That's why I secretly found Lin Yan tonight. That kind of terrifying skill is what Momoshiki wants to learn. Of course this is no problem. Seeing Momoshiki make his choice without hesitation, Lin Yan smiled and snapped his fingers. Then the Holy Grail of the Netherworld appeared in front of you. Lin Yan certainly hopes that Momoshiki will stick to his own path and become the powerful person in the future. But be reasonable. It would be foolish not to use useful props for this reason. Buzz. The next moment, Yusa's Holy Grail burst into light. Although he didn't know what it was, Momoshiki had no intention of dodging and allowed the light to shine on him. As the treasure is consumed, Momoshiki is also undergoing amazing changes. Certainly, it is different from Hancock's comprehensive enhancement in Ain's dragon species. This time using the Holy Grail of use, Lin Yan started to deal with some of Momoshiki's hidden wounds on top of the most basic strengthening, and to stimulate the girl's potential. The human body itself is a huge treasure. That's right, Lin Yan plans to start playing and developing. He plans to personally train the Momoshiki in front of him into a powerful person. With his life level raised to the extreme and having learned the almost invincible sword skills of the infinite martial arts, even Lin Yan was looking forward to what Momoshiki would be like in the future. Of course the cost is not without it. Having spent the same amount of treasure, Momoshiki's strength will not change from the beginning like Hancock and Ain. But growing up in the future will probably be very scary. After a long time, as the light of the Holy Grail dissipated, Momoshiki reached out and clenched his little fist with a shocked expression on his face. The power is completely different from before. Momoshiki thought in shock. However, Lin Yan showed a noncommittal smile on his face. The girl is so naive. Where is this? Lin Yan stretched out his hand and knocked Momoshiki on the head. Then under the girl's slightly red face, a smile suddenly appeared on her face. Don't you want to learn my sword skills? Go back today to familiarize yourself with your own strength, and then we will officially start training tomorrow. As he spoke, a ghost-like smile appeared on Lin Yan's face as Momoshiki's heart trembled. My training will be very hard, you have to endure it. The smile on Lin Yan's face looked like an evil ghost. Even Momoshiki couldn't help but tremble. This is also a matter of course. A powerful swordsman is never just about strength. What's more important is the amazing skills, just like Mihawk, the world's greatest swordsman. If we simply talk about strength, Mihawk is actually quite far from many powerful people, especially some non-human races. His strength is beyond compare. But Mihawk is still a feared strongman on the sea, the world's greatest swordsman. The reason is that his sword skills are far beyond what ordinary people can understand. A knife splits the mountain and splits the ground. Once you reach that state, you can do such incredible things. In view of this, Lin Yan has already thought about how to train Momoshiki to hell next. Very interesting, isn't it? Lin Yan thought this with some evil intentions. I'm leaving first. Really unable to stand the look in Lin Yan's eyes, Momoshiki yelled in panic, and then ran away like a frightened rabbit. In response, Lin Yan just shrugged noncommittally. You can run in the first grade of junior high school, but you can't run in the 15th grade, girl. With a wicked smile on his face, while thinking about how to torture Momoshiki tomorrow, Lin Yan lay down contentedly and began to rest. Then wait until he opens his eyes for the second time. It was noon the next day. After washing up simply as usual, Lin Yan was planning to go out with a smile on his face to let the lovely Miss Momoshiki see the dangers of the world. But as soon as I opened the door, a man dressed like a flamingo walked towards me. It was Doflamingo. Hey, Captain Lin, isn't it a coincidence? I was just about to discuss something with you. I saw Lin Yan opening the door and walking out. Doflamingo immediately stepped forward with a smile on his face. What's the matter? Lin Yan looked at Doflamingo strangely and asked. Actually, I'm here to say goodbye. After all, I think the matter here has been resolved. It's time for me to take my subordinates back home. Doflamingo chuckled. Never mentioned the previous transaction with Lin Yan. This guy still has a lot of guts in his heart. Own share of Tetsolo gold? Forget it. It would be good if you can save your life. What more bikes do you want? As a human being, Doflamingo took the initiative to ignore the transaction between him and Lin Yan. Looking at Lin Yan in front of him, Doflamingo smiled again. Before I say goodbye, Captain Lin, I have some information that you may be very interested in. Do you want to hear it? Doflamingo said to Lin Yan seriously, after this period of time. What's more, he also saw Lin Yan's strength with his own eyes. Doflamingo has completely regarded the man in front of him as his most important partner. Now Doflamingo is even more grateful that he went to find Lin Yan before. The two successfully established a connection. From Doflamingo's perspective, he could naturally see that the man in front of him had extremely thick thighs. If you don't hurry up and hold on tight, why are you waiting? At this time, he is even more willing to proactively provide information free of charge. The idea of getting closer can be said to be obvious. Lin Yan was quite noncommittal about this. What news? Fufufu. A well-informed person like Captain Lin must have heard of the legend of the three weapons, right? Letting out a series of distinctive laughter, Doflamingo chuckled. Elaborate. Lin Yan's eyes condensed. Of course he had heard of the three major weapons. And maybe he knows more than the Doflamingo in front of him. Poseidon, Pluton, and the most mysterious Uranus. I just don't know which one Doflamingo is talking about. Captain Lin is indeed interested. Seeing Lin Yan's reaction, Doflamingo smiled and snapped his fingers. Actually, I also got information recently. It is said that Poseidon, the three major weapons, is hiding in the Fishman Island, which is also the territory of your Whitebeard pirates. I think Captain Lin will be interested in you. Hearing this, Lin Yan touched his chin with some thought. Where did you hear the information? Fufufu is a strange fishman, said to be the princess from the Fishman Island. Captain Lin, you don't have to worry about it. Doflamingo smiled pointedly. The smile was full of obvious malice. As said before, even among all the evil people in the world, Doflamingo is a very special one. He has no purpose, he just wanted to watch the world burn. Then rule its ashes. So after realizing Lin Yan's power, Doflamingo immediately decided to tell all the news about Poseidon that he had heard before. As for what decision Lin Yan will make in the future, just don't care about him. He, Doflamingo, has always been responsible for killing and not burying people. Of course, Doflamingo wouldn't know either. Lin Yan knew much more about Poseidon than he did. Lin Yan naturally would not explain anything to Doflamingo. Looking at the man in front of him who was grinning with malice, Lin Yan nodded slightly. I understand, I will take care of this matter, just leave it alone. Fufufu. Then I'll be waiting for your good news, Captain Lin. Doflamingo nodded without hesitation, acting very sensible. He knew Lin Yan was warning him. The Don Quixote family should not get involved in the matter of the Fishman Island. So naturally there is nothing to say about what happened in the next period of time. After chatting with Lin Yan for a while, Doflamingo left with his subordinates. Brother Ming, is this really okay? It wasn't until everyone left the scope of the Golden City that someone finally found someone. Genin couldn't help but ask Doflamingo. That man is too dangerous. Now that we have handed over Poseidon's information, I'm worried. Fufufu, there's nothing to worry about, right? However, Doflamingo just laughed happily. The smile was filled with fear. Few people know that he, Doflamingo, was once a member of the High Gods, but lost this identity due to some reasons. But that doesn't mean Doflamingo doesn't know anything. Especially when I think back to when I was preparing. Just a few words from world government. Thinking about it, Doflamingo was silent for a moment, and then sighed softly. A dangerous man. He is a real monster. Doflamingo said this with great fear. It is precisely because we are in the abyss that we can see the full picture of the abyss clearly. As a member of the once high-ranking gods, Doflamingo certainly knew some hidden secrets. Also know what the celestial dragons and world government hide in the darkness. And Lin Yan. To actually be able to get the world government to compromise even though a celestial dragons died, even Doflamingo felt afraid of what this represented. The captain of the 17th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates? No. This bit of identity is not enough, in view of this. Only then did Doflamingo go to Lin Yan to hand over the news about Poseidon before leaving. The Fishman Island is the territory of the Whitebeard Pirates. This move is a gesture of goodwill, but it is also a test. As far as Doflamingo himself is concerned, he is still looking forward to Lin Yan's next actions on the Fishman Island. I don't know if I thought of something interesting. The corners of Doflamingo's mouth raised slightly, and he let out his rather iconic laugh again, turning his head to look at the Golden City behind him. This is really exciting. 2 flowers bloom, one on each side. When Doflamingo left the Golden City, Lin Yan also found Tetsolo leisurely and followed the man to the treasure house of the Golden City. He's here to get paid. Tetsolo certainly had no objections to this. Tesoro brought Lin Yan to the treasure house with a smile, and then watched Lin Yan take out the holy grail of the netherworld and begin to collect all his treasures. Watching wealth equivalent to 1/5 of the world disappear before your eyes. Tetsolo, who had always had a huge obsession with money, had a surprisingly calm expression on his face. Seeing his appearance, Lin Yan couldn't help but say, "Isn't it a pity? It's time for me to find a new life." Tetsolo shook his head quietly. Compared to the most important thing in his life, the gold in front of him was nothing. Tetsolo, who had regained the most important thing, no longer had much obsession with gold and wealth. Even if he is a user with the ability of the golden fruit. "Here, this is for you." Lin Yan glanced at Tetsolo and didn't say much. He just tossed a few gold bricks to Tetsolo. "This is?" Subconsciously taking the gold brick, Tetsolo looked at Lin Yan with some confusion and asked. In response, Lin Yan just smiled and spread his hands. "Without this thing, you don't have much fighting power, right? I'm lending it to you for self-protection." Hearing this, Tetsolo's eyes flashed with gratitude, and he nodded heavily towards Lin Yan. So naturally there is nothing to say about what happened next. After using the Holy Grail of the Netherworld to take away Tesoro's wealth, the treasure in Lin Yan's hands once again reached an extremely astonishing level. As said before, this is close to 1/5 of the world's Pele. In terms of sheer amount, even compared with the treasure house of celestial dragons that Lin Yan had robbed before, it was not far behind. Although it is just pure wealth. Seeing that Lin Yan just took out a few very gorgeous cups and took away all the treasures of his golden city, Tetsolo's eyes flashed with a flicker. He hesitated, and suddenly asked Lin Yan. "Master Lin Yan, what are your plans next?" "Get ready to set off to solve some things, and before that, go back to the Whitebeard pirates." Lin Yan didn't mean to hide anything and answered lazily. Tetsolo's eyes moved when he saw this scene. His intuition told him that the things that Lin Yan said needed to be solved would probably become quite troublesome, but Tetsolo had no intention of asking more questions. After all, his top priority now is how to successfully join the Whitebeard pirates. Especially wanting to get that man's approval. The difficulty is not generally high. Moreover, after losing the treasure, he is no longer the Golden Emperor with superior combat power, but is just a pirate who can barely protect himself. Thinking of this, Tetsolo pondered for a moment, and then spoke softly. "Then Master Lin Yan, maybe we have to say goodbye. Within 2 months, I will take Stella with me to the Whitebeard pirates for an appointment." "No problem." Hearing this, Lin Yan smiled and nodded. After a while, the two chatted for a while, and Tetsolo left alone. The first is to gather the subordinates who have followed him over the years, and the second is to determine the course of action in the future. The Golden City beneath their feet has obviously been abandoned by Tetsolo. This is also a matter of course. In response, Lin Yan expressed that his mood was stable. He took one last look at the empty treasure house, then turned around and left. It can be said that the journey was uneventful. Soon, Lin Yan arrived at the pier leisurely. Then it was as expected. 3 girls are already waiting here. "Lin, shall we leave now?" Seeing Lin Yan appear, the 3 girls' eyes lit up at the same time, and Ain even asked Lin Yan directly. "Well, in short, let's go home first." Lin Yan smiled and nodded. "I have something to ask Whitebeard's opinion on." Naturally, the 3 girls had no objections to this, and Ain naturally fulfilled his duties as a navigator again. Hancock is as usual. After showing an elegant smile to Lin Yan, he slowly walked onto the deck. Among the 3, only Momoshagi stopped moving forward, raising a pair of beautiful eyes and looking directly at Lin Yan in front of him, with some kind of longing in his eyes. Seeing her like this, Lin Yan couldn't help but smile. "Don't worry, you will have to endure hardships during the rest of the journey." "Aha." Hearing what Lin Yan said, Momosagi's pretty face couldn't help but a hint of joy flashed through Jonin, and he actually nodded his head heavily. Obviously, the girl at this time still did not realize the seriousness of the problem. Holy Land Marie Joy's, heart of the place. "I see, it really failed." The 5 elders gathered in the usual conference room, holding the report that had just been sent back, with sighs on everyone's faces. This time the crusade failed. But this is also a matter of course. In fact, they didn't expect to succeed this time. The reason why they sent out the force was just to show off and test it. In view of this, the mood of 5 elders is quite stable. Everyone. The 5 elders, who was leaning on crutches, put down the information in their hands, pondered for a moment, and suddenly spoke slowly to the others present. As for the previous proposal, it's almost time to implement it, right? There was silence in the conference room. It can be said that there is nothing that can be done about Lin Yan now, even the entire world government and their 5 elders. At least, not until the true identity of the celestial dragons is revealed. Basically, there is no way. So in view of this, 5 elders need to find a way to contain Lin Yan to a certain extent. This is the proposal mentioned before. A decision that completely puts Lin Yan on the table. After several crusades failed, in order to maintain the credibility of the world government, even the 5 elders had to take action. Hear this. The faces of the remaining people showed some unwillingness, but in the end they nodded in agreement. Seconded. 2 flowers bloom, one on each side. At the same time, Lin Yan was standing on the deck holding the holy sword in his spare time, with a very relaxed expression on his face. What? Is this not enough? Lin Yan looked at Momosagi opposite and laughed. Yes, he is currently training Momosagi in swordsmanship as promised. Huh. However, compared to Lin Yan's relaxed look, Momosagi opposite was obviously not in such a good mood. While trying to adjust his breathing, he glared at Lin Yan angrily. It seems that he is not ready to admit defeat. Come again. After finally adjusting his momentum, Momosagi drew his sword again and charged forward. Then, there's no after that, bang. With a very dull sound, Momosagi flew out again without even seeing clearly what happened. After rolling around on the floor a few times, a look of shame and anger appeared on Momosagi's pretty face. You do it again. The girl stared at Lin Yan with great dissatisfaction. That's it again. Can't you start somewhere else? Feeling the strange touch coming from a certain part, Momosagi's face turned blood red, and his eyes looking at Lin Yan also had a hint of murderous intent. I'm asking you to be a human being. Of course, Lin Yan is not afraid at all. Faced with Momosagi's look that wanted to kill someone, Lin Yan just shrugged calmly. So, if you don't want this scene to happen again, how about you learn to control your movements? Yes, he did it on purpose. Listen to yourself. Is what you were saying human? Momosagi almost laughed out loud. Recently, similar things have been happening every day. Euphemistically speaking, this is to practice his movements, and then every day, Momosagi will perform a trapeze on the deck with similar movements. According to Lin Yan's words, when Momosagi is able to defend against it, it means that her swordsmanship has entered a whole new level. Of course Momosagi understands, but can you stop kicking one place every time? Are you a devil? In shame and anger, Momosagi once again raised his sword and charged at Lin Yan. The result is of course still the same. Haha. Has Lin become worse and worse in recent times? Watching the small theater that was held every day as scheduled, Ain couldn't help but sigh, then reached for the drink, and leaned on the deck with Hancock to watch the show. It can be said to be very disdainful. You can't say that. My dear, this is serious training. Haven't you noticed that Momosagi's movements are getting faster and faster recently? Hancock smiled and shook his head, although it looks very informal. But every time Momosagi rushed forward in shame and anger and was kicked back, Momosagi's movements became faster and faster. It can be seen that Lin Yan was not just playing. Of course I can see that, but isn't this process a bit? Ain sighed again, with a somewhat inexplicable look in his eyes. Hancock smiled and turned his head to look at her. Could it be that you're jealous? What? You, how can you accuse someone of innocence out of thin air? Ain was so embarrassed that he couldn't help but stretched out his little hand and started playing with Hancock. For a moment, the deck was filled with a happy atmosphere. Only Momosagi's injured world is completed. Then, just as the 2 girls started to fight, at a certain moment, the 2 girls suddenly stopped and turned their heads to look at the sky. A seagull was flying towards the ship with a newspaper in its mouth. Today's newspaper. Ain stopped playing with Hancock, casually took off the newspaper from the seagull's mouth, patted the seagull's head to release it, and then started reading casually. Then Ain's eyes suddenly widened. Is there any new news, huh? Seeing Ain's movements suddenly freeze, Hancock came forward curiously, but after just one glance, the expression on his pretty face suddenly froze just like Ain's. Dear, you, come here and take a look. So the next second, Lin Yan, who was torturing Momosagi with a devilish smile, heard such a cry. Well, let's pause for a moment. After saying hello to Momosagi who was about to rush forward again, Lin Yan approached the 2 girls out of curiosity. What happened? Let me be healthy. Huh. His head poked out from Ain's shoulder, and after seeing the contents of the newspaper, Lin Yan's expression also paused. The content of the newspaper is very simple. It was so simple that it didn't even include the usual long speech, just a message in bold font on the front page. The fifth Emperor of the Sea was born, confirmed by world government. Because this man was powerful, helped investigate the death of the celestial dragons, and had amazing power under his command, he made an exception and became the fifth Emperor of New Horizons. Below is a photo of Lin Yan. Even Lin Yan couldn't help but narrow his eyes after seeing this news. What the hell? Have I become the 5 emperors? When did this happen? I do not know how. Lin Yan couldn't help but slowly type a question mark, and then looked at the very restrained wording in the newspaper, and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. There's no bounty on this thing. That's right, there is no bounty in this headline that belongs to me, not even a Bailey. Instead, it is shaped by world government. He became the biggest contributor to the investigation of the death of celestial dragons, and became a part of the existence at the top of this world. As for the previous summit war and several buster calls, well, it's all a misunderstanding. What a misunderstanding. Lin Yan squinted his eyes and looked at the newspaper in front of him. After a while, the corners of his mouth turned up slightly. I see, is this the idea? Lin Yan figured everything out quickly. After all, you can tell just by reading the contents of this newspaper, right? According to the description in the newspaper, he became the 5th Emperor of the New World, and the most special one among them. The biggest contributor to the investigation into the death of celestial dragons? Sea Emperor without a bounty. FNNDP. There is no doubt that this is because the 5 elders have given in. I am afraid that those old guys also know that they cannot be easily helped, and they have to explain the death of the celestial dragons in the Golden City. That's why we have this newspaper in front of us now. As for the scapegoat, to be fair, you can have as many of those things as you want. In the eyes of the world government, which rules the entire world, this is simply insignificant. I'm afraid that when people who don't know why they read this newspaper, they will think that Lin Yan, the newly promoted 5th Emperor, has a good relationship with the world government, right? This is exactly what 5 elders is planning. In other words, it's a conspiracy. Since it is unrealistic to attack Lin Yan, just use other forces to contain Lin Yan's existence. Those 5 old guys definitely think so. After all, the position of the Emperor of the Sea is watched by many people. It is conceivable that after this newspaper is spread, Lin Yan will become the object of attention in the entire sea in an instant. Especially the reactions of the other 4 emperors groups. Very obvious reason. The Whitebeard pirates now have 2 sea emperors. The expansion of the territory of power has become inevitable, and it is conceivable that how can the other 4 emperors give up their territory? Leaving aside the bold redhead, Kaido and Big Mom will definitely be united through this reason. After all, the cake is only that big, right? The existence of Lin Yan, the 5th Sea Emperor, has undoubtedly once again pushed the Whitebeard pirates to the forefront. In addition, the newspaper hinted overtly and covertly that Lin Yan had a good relationship with the world government, and Lin Yan's bounty was also cancelled. One can imagine what those pirate forces who are not familiar with the Whitebeard pirates would think. After the Summit War, the relationship between the Whitebeard pirates and Marine. It can only be described as hee-hee, so the purpose of 5 elders is clear. It seems like we are getting close, but in reality we are isolated. In fact, the Whitebeard pirates are placed in opposition to almost all pirates and Marines. I have to say that this power play is still very good. As a result, New World's territory of power will also be redivided. Lin, what should we do now? Ain and Momoshiki were a little confused, but as the Empress of Nine Snakes Island, Hancock quickly realized the same problem as Lin Yan. The beautiful eyebrows couldn't help but frown slightly. Hancock looked at Lin Yan and asked. Just let nature take its course. Lin Yan smiled at Hancock. Anyway, to him, it doesn't really matter how the forces on the sea are ultimately divided. Sooner or later, there will be a day when I completely break up with the world government. And the current Whitebeard pirates, he is not afraid of any enemies at all. With Whitebeard in his prime and a group of top strong men, plus his own existence, the world government would not dare to take action easily. Checks and balances are just checks and balances. Is it possible that the world government still dares to continue launching Buster Call? It doesn't exist. Okay. Lin Yan said he was emotionally stable. I hope that when I step onto Marie Joy's again and punch someone in the face, they will still be as willing to play tricks as they are now. Seeing Lin Yan's calm look, the 3 girls were somewhat relieved. As long as Lin Yan is around, they won't panic about anything. But in this way, we can be regarded as independent from the Whitebeard pirates. At least we can't just call them Division 17, right? Hancock suddenly touched his chin thoughtfully. Honey, should we give the pirate group a new name? Hearing this, Ain and Momosagi's eyes suddenly lit up. What a great idea. So in the next period of time, the three girls started discussing happily, and Lin Yan could only smile helplessly. So as far as facts are concerned, this newspaper did not create any waves in Lin Yan's boat. But in the eyes of other people who saw this newspaper, it was completely different. The fifth emperor of the sea, finally born. As the news spread around the world like a virus, the newspaper business was doing very well these days. Soon, in every tavern around the world, there were a group of idlers chatting and discussing the matter. The Whitebeard pirates naturally received the news immediately. Gu la 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 la. 5 elders actually have this day. Whitebeard laughed, holding the newspaper, as the ruler of this sea. A living legend. Whitebeard naturally saw 5 elders' little trick at a glance. Put the Whitebeard pirates on the opposite side? Checks and balances? It's just a trivial matter. In this world, the strong will always be respected. Whitebeard didn't pay any attention to this little calculation. After all, as mentioned before, the current Whitebeard pirates can meet all challenges. Thinking about it, the smile on Whitebeard's face became a little brighter again. Young ladies, there's a party. Oh. 2 flowers bloom, one on each side. Just when the whole world started to get excited about this news, Lin Yan's boat was sailing leisurely. It took almost 2 weeks to return to the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. In the distance, Moby Dick can already be seen. It's Captain Lin. Captain Lin is back. Shit. What Captain Lin is calling Mr. Lin? I think it's better to call him His Majesty the Emperor. Ha ha ha. We haven't seen each other for a while, but the members of the Whitebeard pirates still look cheerful. Seeing this scene, Lin Yan couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. I do not care what time. Home will always be home. Ain had just docked the boat on the Moby Dick, and Marco, who had always been very familiar with Lin Yan, spread his wings and flew over. As soon as he saw Lin Yan, he gave a bright blue thumbs up. It has to be you. Tisk. Lin Yan rolled his eyes at Marco and looked at the teasing look on his face and didn't even bother to pay attention to him, so he went straight to the point. Is Whitebeard here? I have something to discuss with him. Tisk tisk. As expected, he is the new emperor. He doesn't even bother to pay attention to his old friend. Ahem, I'm just kidding. Marco smacked his lips and was about to complain. After being glanced at by Lin Yan with half-smiling eyes, he immediately coughed and shut up. As for Dad, I'm already waiting for you on the deck. With that said, it seemed that he was not going to give Lin Yan a chance to clean himself up. Marco raised his wings and started to lead the way for Lin Yan. Lin Yan shook his head with a smile and said hello to a few girls before leaving with Marco. Not long after, he saw Whitebeard sitting on the deck drinking heavily. Long time no see. This man is still as bold as ever. Gula la la la, you're back. I've heard about what happened in Golden City, and I can only say that it's you. Saw Lin Yan appear. Whitebeard immediately smiled with a hearty smile on his face. Obviously he admires what Lin Yan has done very much. As expected of a member of our Whitebeard pirates. It was just a chance encounter. Lin Yan smiled and shook his head. By the way, when I come back this time, I have something to ask you. Hearing what Lin Yan said, Whitebeard immediately suppressed the smile on his face. To be honest, he was still wondering why Lin Yan came back at this time. So something happened. Thinking of this, Whitebeard immediately became serious. After all, even Lin Yan had to ask himself, so one can imagine that it was not a trivial matter. So under Whitebeard's serious look, Lin Yan slowly spoke. Has anything strange happened on the Fishmen Island recently? The Fishmen Island? Whitebeard tilted his head in confusion. As far as I know, there is not. After pondering for a moment, Whitebeard gave this answer. The Fishmen Island is the territory of their Whitebeard pirate group, and it has been protected by them since a long time ago. If anything happens on the Fishmen Island, Whitebeard will definitely get the news. According to the information returned during this period, the Fishmen Island seems to be very peaceful. Whitebeard was a little confused as to why Lin Yan was asking this. The Fishmen Island? Lin, could it be that something happened? Hearing Lin Yan's return, Jinbei and Fisher Tiger, who had just walked to the deck, also heard the conversation and couldn't help showing expressions of surprise and uncertainty on their faces. Same idea as Whitebeard had before. Even Lin Yan brought it up. Could it be something trivial? The two people immediately became a little nervous. After all, the Fishmen Island is also their hometown. No, I just heard some interesting rumors outside. It doesn't necessarily mean a bad result. Lin Yan raised his hand with a smile. He signaled the two of them to be calm and calm. Sure enough, it was pretty much what he thought. Even people like Whitebeard didn't know that Poseidon's affairs had been exposed yet. In his heart, he praised Doflamingo's ability to collect intelligence. On the surface, Lin Yan's expression remained unchanged and he looked at Fisher Tiger next to Jinbei with a smile. It seems you successfully joined. Haha. Even though he is now Jinbei's subordinate. Fisher Tiger smiled heartily, and soon the expression on his face became serious. But Brother Lin, is there really something big going to happen on the Fishmen Island? Fisher Tiger asked Lin Yan very solemnly, as said before. The Fishmen Island is the hometown of all fishmen. Fisher Tiger naturally doesn't care. About that. Hearing Fisher Tiger's inquiry, Lin Yan was about to shake his head and respond, but then he thought, Jinbei and Fisher Tiger seem to have great prestige in the Fishmen Island. Thinking of this, Lin Yan suddenly became concerned. After touching his chin and thinking for a moment, Lin Yan slowly spoke. When I was in Golden City, I heard a very interesting news. Maybe things will be difficult to handle on the Fishmen Island next. As he spoke, Lin Yan's tone paused slightly. By the way, can you two still talk to each other on the Fishmen Island? Hearing this, the two looked at each other, and finally Jinbei nodded first. I think it's okay. Lin, do you need our help? Jinbei asked Lin Yan somewhat solemnly. In response, Lin Yan just smiled and shrugged. Who knows, after all, you two know what the Fishmen Island is like. When the two of them heard this, they immediately fell silent. The atmosphere suddenly became a little tense. Fortunately, Lin Yan quickly continued to speak. Honestly, I have no interest in those things. I just plan to go there considering that the Fishmen Island is our territory. If you two have time, please come with me. Good. Although they didn't know what kind of medicine Lin Yan was selling in the gourd, the two of them nodded readily and agreed. La. Then I'll leave this matter to you, Lin, with full authority. I listened for a long time. Whitebeard also figured out some clues. A hearty smile appeared on his face immediately, and then he completely handed over the matter to Lin Yan. Even though Whitebeard didn't know what difficulties Lin Yan was referring to. But this does not prevent him from having 100% trust in Lin Yan. So the matter was decided happily. Sometime later, Whitebeard asked about Lin Yan's experience in the Golden City. Lin Yan certainly didn't mean to hide it. Let's start with the Golden Emperor Tesoro and Doflamingo, and then mention Marine's Buster Call again. After listening, even Whitebeard couldn't help but feel a little emotional. I'm afraid you are the only one in the world who dares to do such a thing. Whitebeard couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. Kill celestial dragons? Nothing happened after killing him? Good for you. Looking at Lin Yan in front of him, even Whitebeard couldn't help but sigh. Who would have thought that the boy he took in at the beginning would actually grow to this point? This is the Whitebeard pirate's good fortune. Now, he has become the 5th emperor of the sea. Whitebeard touched his chin with some emotion. Then under Lin Yan's somewhat surprised expression, Whitebeard suddenly spoke. Now that things have become like this, the previous 17th division is no longer applicable. Speaking of which. Lin, what are you going to name your pirate group? Whitebeard looked at Lin Yan with interest and asked. Lin Yan, on the other hand, after a brief moment of astonishment, helplessly spread his hands. Well, I'm afraid I don't need to worry about this matter. Hearing this, Whitebeard's face couldn't help but a hint of astonishment flashed across Johnen's face. This is also a matter of course. After all, Lin Yan is the captain of the 17th division. However, facing Whitebeard's somewhat stunned expression, Lin Yan just smiled and spread his hands. After all, I've never been very good at naming, and Hancock and the others seem to be a little more interested than me. Hearing this, Whitebeard finally understood and immediately showed a hearty smile on his face. La. Okay, I know. When the name is decided, just give me a little notice. Whitebeard accepted the result very easily. For him, the pirate group is like a family, and every member is his family, so it is naturally impossible for him to express any objection to Lin Yan's decision. So the matter was decided happily. So Lin, are you ready to go to sea now? Looking at Lin Yan in front of him, Whitebeard's eyes flashed with appreciation, and then he asked with a serious expression. Well, that's about it. After all, the sooner the matter over there is resolved, the better. It's still our territory after all. Lin Yan smiled and nodded. After all, as we all know, the Fishmen Island is the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. How can we allow others to interfere at will? And as far as Lin Yan himself is concerned, it is not that he has no interest in the 3 major weapons. La. I know. Of course Whitebeard didn't have any objections. After laughing heartily for a while, he looked at Lin Yan very seriously. I won't say that much. All in all, if there is any trouble, we will be your backing. Whitebeard promised extremely seriously. Everyone in the Whitebeard Pirates will naturally become the support of their family. This is the most special thing about the Whitebeard Pirates compared to other emperors. And they did. I'll make a note of it. Seeing Whitebeard's very serious eyes in front of him, Lin Yan couldn't help but feel a flash of warmth in his heart, and nodded his head very seriously. So naturally there is nothing to say about what happened next. After communicating with Whitebeard, Lin Yan took Jinbei and Fisher Tiger to prepare, and then took his people on the road to the Fishmen Island. It can be said that there was no surprise or danger along the way. Everyone first went to Sabodi Archipelago to deal with the matter of coating the ship, and then just a week later, they successfully arrived at the Fishmen Island located in the deep sea. Who is here? It's Lord Lin Yan. The Fishmen Island is the territory of the Fishmen, so it is naturally subject to routine inspections. However, after seeing Lin Yan, the fishmen guarding the island could not help but show a surprised expression on their faces. Now Lin Yan is the great benefactor of the Fishmen Island. The reason is naturally very simple. After the Summit War, facing threats from two four emperors groups and marine, Lin Yan single-handedly saved the Fishmen Island. By the way, I also gave 3 companies a heavy blow. The attitude of the Fishmen Island is naturally very friendly towards the Whitebeard Pirates and Lin Yan. So the next thing became very simple. Without even a basic communication, the group was quickly released, and a few hours later, they met Neptune, the king of the Fishmen Island. Master Lin Yan, you are fine. Neptune, whom I haven't seen for a long time, is still the same as before. Even among the many fishmen, he has an exaggeratedly huge size. Neptune greeted Lin Yan with a very kind smile. After all, if it weren't for the protection of the Whitebeard Pirates and the man in front of them, the Fishmen Island would never be as peaceful as it is now. For this, Neptune has always been grateful. King Neptune, it's great to see you in such good spirits. It seems like I haven't had any trouble lately, right? Seeing Neptune's smiling face, Lin Yan smiled and nodded, and then asked about the current situation of the Fishmen Island. Nothing happened. Why does Master Lin Yan ask this? Hearing this, Neptune looked at Lin Yan with some confusion and asked. Since that incident, nothing special has happened on the Fishmen Island for a long time. The last crisis was resolved with Lin Yan in front of him. Neptune was a little confused as to why Lin Yan suddenly asked this. It's nothing, I'm just asking casually. After all, the Fishmen Island is also the territory of our Whitebeard Pirates, so we should be concerned about it. Lin Yan laughed without changing his expression. But there is already some calculation in my heart. It seems that Neptune in front of him knows nothing about the news about Poseidon. I have to say that Doflamingo is really good at it. I see. Seeing Lin Yan's very calm reaction, Neptune did not become suspicious, thinking that Lin Yan was just here to express condolences on behalf of the Whitebeard Pirates, so he didn't take it to heart. Master Lin Yan, this is not the place to talk. Please follow me first. Neptune smiled at Lin Yan. Then he planned to take everyone to the banquet hall to talk. However, when Neptune and Lin Yan finished their greetings, he noticed the people behind Lin Yan. The expression on his face immediately became unstable. Of course he was not paying attention to Hancock Ain and Momosagi. Although Jinbei's arrival was a bit surprising, Neptune, as a king, could naturally take it calmly. Neptune's eyes were locked on Fisher Tiger, who was standing at the end. There was a rare hint of ecstasy on his face. You are? It must be a long time no see, King Neptune. Seeing that he was recognized, Fisher Tiger naturally had no intention of hiding, but naturally showed a smile on his face. There was some emotion in the smile. Almost more than 10 years have passed since he left the Fishmen Island. When he suddenly returned to his hometown, even Fisher Tiger was a little sighing. Tiger, is it really you? Neptune suddenly lost his composure. You must know that the Fisher Tiger in front of you is called a hero, and he has disappeared from the Fishmen Island for more than 10 years. Neptune thought he was dead. One can imagine how shocked he was when he saw Fisher Tiger appearing in front of him again. Well, for some special reasons, I hid it for a while. Is the Fishmen Island okay now? However, Fisher Tiger obviously had no intention of saying more. He recounted his experiences of the past 10 years and then asked about Neptune. Hearing Fisher Tiger's inquiry, Neptune's face felt a little embarrassed for some reason, and in the end he just sighed softly. Let's talk after we go inside. Good. Apparently seeing something from Neptune's expression, Fisher Tiger paused for a moment and finally nodded. Neptune brought everyone to the banquet hall. Even if it is a hasty visit, proper etiquette is indispensable, especially when facing the benefactor of the Fishmen Island. At this point, Neptune will naturally not be rude. So in view of this, Lin Yan's various unaccustomed banquets did not end until a few hours later. After the banquet, Hancock went shopping with a few girls, and only Lin Yan and 3 fishmen were left. The atmosphere was somewhat silent for a moment. Seeing the 3 people staring at each other, Lin Yan couldn't help but smile. Do you need me to avoid it? Well, Mr. Lin Yan, you are not an outsider, so you might as well listen together. Neptune scratched his head in embarrassment. Immediately, the look in Fisher Tiger's eyes became a little complicated. He looked like he didn't know what to say. Seeing this scene, Fisher Tiger paused for a moment, and finally asked first. Neptune, what happened to the Fishman Island while I was away? Fisher Tiger asked Neptune in front of him. For some reason, he suddenly had a bad premonition. Well, it's a long story. This seemed to be a question that had to be faced. Neptune did not answer immediately. Instead, he remained silent for a long time before sighing faintly. Then, Neptune began to talk about the past in front of the 3 people. That is now a taboo on the entire The Fishman Island. It is also a story about division and hatred. Compared to ordinary humans, Murlocs are born with stronger physical qualities. As the saying goes, people who are not our race must have different minds. I don't know when the differences between Murlocs and humans have existed. Old hatreds breed new hatreds, and they continue on and on. But even under such circumstances, there are also people who are standing up for the future of the next generation. The Fisher Tiger in front of him is one of them, and the other person is now dead. That person is Neptune's wife, Queen Otahime of the Fishman Island. A sudden change took place in the former Fishman Island. The final result was that Otahime, who wanted to promote peace, died, and the entire The Fishman Island was closed. This is a dusty past. If Fisher Tiger hadn't reappeared, Neptune wouldn't have planned to say so. Although it is just a few words in an understatement. Neptune filtered a lot out of it, but it does not prevent others from understanding the cruel situation at that time. After listening, even Lin Yan couldn't help but become a little silent for a while. Of course he knew the beginning and end of some things, perhaps even more than the Neptune in front of him, but to Lin Yan, these were just plots that had happened before. When I came to the Fishman Island and heard the person involved talking about that past event, my feelings were naturally completely different. This is a real world. Everything really happened. After hearing this, Fisher Tiger fell into complete silence. That's it, Princess Otahime. Fisher Tiger sighed softly. He was rescued by Lin Yan more than 10 years ago and left the Fishman Island. He kept his promise to protect Hancock and never came back for more than 10 years. I didn't expect that such a thing would happen on the Fishman Island. All of a sudden, Fisher Tiger also had mixed feelings. Yeah, it all happened a long time ago. To be honest. Now I'm a little unsure about whether to stick to your original dream. Neptune looked at Fisher Tiger with a sigh and said. Otahime is an extremely kind person. The Fisher Tiger in front of him is even called a hero. If there is anyone who is indispensable on the road to peace between fish people and humans, then these 2 people are one of them. But now Otahime is dead. Fisher Tiger disappeared without news for more than 10 years. Neptune, who had suffered tremendous pain, was no longer able to stick to the path left by his old friend. This is also a matter of course. Seeing the sad look of Neptune in front of him, even Fisher Tiger was speechless for a moment. But at this moment, Lin Yan coughed slightly. In short, I almost understand the details. I don't want to point fingers at things between you fish and humans, but King Neptune. The Princess Shirahoshi you mentioned before can let me see one side? Lin Yan said to Neptune. As said before, Lin Yan considers himself not a good person. He was somewhat noncommittal about the issue between humans and fishmen, but Lin Yan was still somewhat interested in the simple and kind-hearted Princess Shirahoshi. What's more, the opponent is Poseidon. This is also my goal this time. As if he didn't expect Lin Yan to say this suddenly, Neptune was obviously stunned for a moment, and then a trace of hesitation appeared on his face. Lin Yan knew it well, but he still asked, pretending to be confused. Any questions? Let me get it straight, Master Lin Yan. You are the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates and the benefactor of our the Fishman Island. Logically speaking, I shouldn't refuse, but Shirahoshi's condition. Neptune seemed hesitant to speak, obviously weighing the gains and losses in his heart. But in the end he gritted his teeth and told Lin Yan the truth. Oh, is there such a thing? Does it mean that once Shirahoshi shows up, his life will be in danger? After listening to Neptune's explanation, Lin Yan tilted his head, pretending to be surprised. Have you found out the reason? It's a shameless man named Vanderdecken. He marked Shirahoshi with the fruit's ability, so I had to protect Shirahoshi. Neptune said with gritted teeth. In order to protect the safety of his only daughter, Neptune had to keep Shirahoshi locked in the tower. At this time, he naturally gritted his teeth when he mentioned it. Is there such a thing? Hearing this, Lin Yan had no reaction, and Fisher Tiger on the other side stood up angrily. Shirahoshi for him. He is the son of an old friend. How could Fisher Tiger, who always hates evil, tolerate such evil behavior? Even Jinbei, who was usually calm, had a flash of anger on his face. But just as the three of them were gritting their teeth, Lin Yan suddenly smiled and touched his chin. In that case, it's even more necessary to meet, isn't it? Lin Yan said to the three people present with a smile. The tone was full of determination. Master Lin Yan, what do you mean? Neptune looked at Lin Yan with some confusion and asked. After all, he had made it clear before that Shirahoshi would be attacked if he showed up. However, even after knowing this, Lin Yan still insisted on seeing Shirahoshi. This makes Neptune a little confused. In this regard, Lin Yan certainly did not directly say that Shirahoshi meant Poseidon, but explained it lightly. As the saying goes, it's better to block than to open up. The Fishmen Island is also our territory after all. If you don't know, forget it. If you know, I can't leave such a flea alone. Lin Yan said this naturally, reasonable and convincing. The Fishmen Island is the territory of the Whitebeard pirates, so of course, as the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, it is very reasonable for me to clean up some clowns, right? Master Lin Yan, what do you mean? I heard Lin Yan say this. Neptune's face suddenly flashed with joy. This meaning couldn't be more clear. Lin Yan intends to solve Vanderdecken. To be honest, if another person said this, Neptune might still be a little hesitant. After all, the relationship between fish and humans is not good, and the other party's ability is indeed a bit tricky. How else could he have kept Shirahoshi locked up? But the Lin Yan in front of him was completely different. In terms of identity, the opponent is the captain of the 17th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates and the benefactor of the Fishmen Island. Neptune doubts that anyone can doubt Lin Yan. As for strength, let alone it. The man in front of me is the top monster in the sea. If Lin Yan takes action to keep Shirahoshi, there is a door. Thinking of this, Neptune suddenly became excited. As a father, how could he bear to keep his daughter locked up? Now that Lin Yan wanted to lend a helping hand, there was no reason for Neptune to refuse. So almost without hesitation, Neptune nodded immediately. Then in that case, I'd like to trouble you, Master Lin Yan. Our entire royal family owes you a favor. Neptune said very excitedly. In response, Lin Yan just waved his hand lightly. Let's talk about this kind of thing later. I'll go see Shirahoshi first and you guys can continue talking. Of course, don't worry about safety. Of course this is no problem. Hearing what Lin Yan said, Neptune was very happy. He immediately told Lin Yan where Shirahoshi was and even sent his trusted aide to take Lin Yan there. In this regard, Lin Yan certainly has nothing to refuse. Sure enough, it doesn't matter when it is. People with strength and status always get things done easily. With this thought in mind, Lin Yan followed Neptune's cronies all the way around, and after 10 minutes, he arrived at the tower where Princess Shirahoshi was. Okay, you can retreat, I will be in charge here now. Yes. After casually waving his hand to dismiss his cronies, Lin Yan raised his head and looked at the door in front of him. This is a very huge door. Visual inspection estimated that it was more than 10 meters tall. With Talon's height of about 1.8 meters, he looked like an ant standing in front of this door. It looks like a tower where giants live. You're already here, let's go and have a look first. After appreciating the huge building in front of him for a moment, Lin Yan smiled, then stretched out his hand and placed it on the door without hesitation. The huge door is very heavy, but of course there is no problem for Lin Yan. Soon, Lin Yan opened the door and walked in grandly. I have to say that there is still a huge difference between the inside and the outside. From the outside, the overall style of this high tower is serious and looks like a prison. However, when you walk inside, it is a layout full of girlishness. Soft blankets can be seen everywhere, and the entire interior is also based on pink. It looks very soft and cute. It is not difficult to imagine what kind of character the owner here is. Ah, my girlish heart. For some reason, there was an inexplicable smile on the corner of his mouth, and Lin Yan walked majestically in the tower. And then quickly, he was stopped. To be precise, he was stopped by a shark. Roar. Seeing Lin Yan, a human being, appear here, the shark suddenly showed an extremely human and ferocious expression on his face, and roared a warning at Lin Yan. Lin Yan said he was emotionally stable. After all, although the thing in front of him looks very vicious, for a strong man of his strength, the threat is almost negligible. Instead, Lin Yan observed the pet opposite with great interest. That's right, pets, whoosh, Faced with Lin Yan's strange look, as if he felt that he was offended, the shark showed a row of vicious fangs at Lin Yan, and then rushed over without saying a word. It seems that he wants to stop Lin Yan here, then. There's no after that. Be honest. Facing the shark charging towards him with great momentum, Lin Yan just lightly stretched out a hand to put on the shark's head, and then pressed down casually. Boom. Ouch. The shark, which was completely defenseless and looked very vicious, was instantly slapped to the floor by Lin Yan. No matter how hard you try, it's useless. Lin Yan's arms, which didn't seem to have much muscle, were like a Mount Tai, not allowing any resistance at all. The terrifying strength made the shark lose his temper at all. Soon the shark stopped struggling. Under Lin Yan's somewhat funny expression, this guy actually showed an aggrieved expression on his face. If it wasn't just a shark, he might have begged for mercy. And just when Lin Yan was about to make a joke, suddenly a timid voice came from not far away. You. Who are you? It was a very weak-sounding voice. At first glance, she sounded like a very cute girl. In addition to timidity, her tone also contained a strong sense of curiosity. Cough. As we all know, one should maintain a gentleman's demeanor in front of girls. Lin Yan immediately coughed dryly and then let go of the shark as if nothing happened. A friendly smile appeared on his face. Is she Princess Shirahoshi? I am a guest invited by your father Neptune, and I am here to protect you. Protect me? Hidden in the darkness, Shirahoshi tilted his head strangely. But since he is the guest of his father, it should be no problem? Thinking about it, Shirahoshi quickly lowered his guard and stepped out of the shadows curiously to approach Lin Yan. Weird man. What's your name? So big. Even if you have already been mentally prepared. But when he saw Shirahoshi's pretty face in front of him, Lin Yan was still shocked. There was only one word left in my heart, big. So damn big. Of course it doesn't mean anything strange, just in a literal sense. The size of Shirahoshi in front of him was almost the same as that of Sea King's. At this moment, his pretty face was in front of Lin Yan. Lin Yan was actually not as big as his eyes. She looks like a super giant beautiful girl. It's quite visually impactful. Even Lin Yan couldn't help but be stunned for a moment after witnessing Shirahoshi's appearance. After all, even for a fishman, Shirahoshi was so huge that it was a bit outrageous. Why don't you speak? It was obvious that Shirahoshi had not seen many outsiders, and he was very interested in Lin Yan in front of him. In addition, he is a guest introduced by his father. Shirahoshi didn't have any doubts, and looked at Lin Yan with only curiosity and joy in his eyes. She didn't even doubt whether Lin Yan was lying to her. She is a pure and beautiful girl in the literal sense. I'm afraid that I have to help count the money after being sold. My name is Lin Yan, and I am your father's guest. What are you doing? Heard Shirahoshi ask. Lin Yan came back to his senses, put a very hearty smile on his face, and started to introduce himself, but his face suddenly froze halfway through the introduction. Because Shirahoshi had already reached out and grabbed him. It looks like a curious girl grabbing a doll. Lin Yan expressed mixed emotions. Because he didn't feel any malice from Shirahoshi's actions, Lin Yan didn't move, letting the girl hold him in her palm, and just asked a question with a weird look on his face. It's easier to talk this way, Shirahoshi replied with a smile without any thought. Then he held Lin Yan in his palm and looked at the man in front of him curiously. You humans are really so small, aren't you? Lin Yan was speechless. Seeing Shirahoshi's innocent look in front of him, Lin Yan didn't defend himself, but just rolled his eyes helplessly. Forget it. Just be happy. Lin Yan also had a good impression of the simple and kind-hearted little princess in front of her. Although being held in the palm of a beautiful girl's hands anyway, the mood is weird in every sense of the word. But since it's Shirahoshi, Lin Yan said it was not unacceptable. Love the house and blackout belongs to yes. Lin. Yan? Why don't you speak? Seeing Lin Yan's helpless expression, Shirahoshi tilted his head cautiously and asked. She has been locked up here all this time. Let alone a human being, even fishmen are rarely seen. Shirahoshi is naturally very happy about Lin Yan's arrival. Shirahoshi now. She looks like a poor girl who is afraid of being disliked. And of course, faced with such a girl, naturally no one can harshly blame her. Putting away his helpless expression, Lin Yan smiled at Shirahoshi. After all, I just introduced myself. We haven't gotten to know each other yet, right? Try to keep the smile on your face as gentle as possible, Lin Yan reminded Shirahoshi. Yes. Shirahoshi slapped his forehead and couldn't help but feel relaxed when he saw that Lin Yan didn't look bored with him. Only. How can we become familiar with it? Under Lin Yan's funny eyes, Shirahoshi tilted his head and thought, and then his eyes lit up. By the way, let me treat you to dinner. This girl is really too innocent. Seeing Shirahoshi's proud expression in front of him, Lin Yan really wanted to reach out and knock her on the head and ask what was inside. Marshmallows? But considering the size difference between the two, they had no choice but to give up. So what happens after that is very simple. It seemed that he really thought that he could get acquainted with Lin Yan in this way. Shirahoshi seemed very motivated and quickly moved a lot of huge food from all corners of the room. Lin Yan expressed mixed emotions. After all, to be honest, the weight in front of me is probably enough to kill a cow. But looking at Shirahoshi's expectant eyes, Lin Yan couldn't refuse, so he could only smile and shake his head and sit opposite Shirahoshi. Then I start. It tastes great. Shirahoshi nodded immediately. Lin Yan was speechless and could only pick up the huge knife and fork and prepare to use it, but at this moment. Whoosh! Suddenly there was a sound of breaking through the air outside the palace door. Lin Yan's movements also stopped instantly. What the hell? As mentioned before, Lin Yan has a good impression of Shirahoshi in front of him, especially the girl's simple and kind character, which makes Lin Yan like her very much. Now the girl treats herself to a meal. Throw an axe over here? You're tired of living, aren't you? A flash of anger flashed in his eyes. Lin Yan turned his head sharply, stretched out his palm without hesitation, and with a bang, the huge axe fell steadily on Lin Yan's hand. Good boy. Yes. Die to me. Lin Yan's power was so huge that he couldn't be provoked by such a small trick. He slightly estimated the direction of the axe in his mind, and then threw it back violently. The huge axe instantly turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. It was only then that Shirahoshi reacted. Ah? The girl let out a small exclamation, and couldn't help showing a panicked expression on her pretty face. She sat on the ground and shivered. Lin Yan also had an angry look on his face, but looking at Shirahoshi's appearance, he immediately turned around and comforted the girl softly. 2 flowers bloom, one on each side. Somewhere far away from the palace of the Fishmen Island. Vanderdecken is sitting in his office on the ship with a proud look on his face. With a proud smile on his face. Oops, it seems that Shirahoshi has received my gift, but he was stopped by someone, but forget it, he can't threaten me anyway. Vanderdecken had a smug look on his face. My target fruit ability can mark targets. It's rare that Shirahoshi's door opens, how can I not send some thoughts? Shirahoshi is incapable of escaping. However, Vanderdecken's pride did not last long. Soon, a subordinate rushed in a panic. Didn't you see that I was resting? Vanderdecken scolded with some dissatisfaction. These guys are really becoming less and less big lately. However, the person who broke in did not notice this. When he saw Vanderdecken, he immediately shouted in panic. Boss, something is flying towards us. It seems to be your axe from before. Vanderdecken. Impossible, absolutely impossible. This guy must have seen it wrong. There is one thing to say, this was Vanderdecken's first reaction. After all, as a target fruit user, he really doesn't know what his abilities are. As long as he touches a person, he can use the target fruit's ability to leave a mark on that person. Any items thrown subsequently will automatically track the mark to the ends of the earth. You will never stop unless you encounter obstacles. In other words, he didn't throw it in a straight line. Do you understand the value of automatic tracking? If not, he would not have been discovered by the people sent by Neptune. Can anyone throw back what they threw out? How could such an outrageous thing happen? Thinking of the special nature of his ability, Vanderdecken immediately calmed down a lot. He was about to scold the subordinates who broke in with great dissatisfaction. However, before he could speak, the expression on his face was suddenly stunned. Whoosh! Something is flying over. Although compared to the big pirates who are all-powerful in this world, it can be said that they are weak and pitiful, but Vanderdecken is also a captain after all, so he felt something was wrong when he heard this voice. Out of instinct, Vanderdecken couldn't help but take a few steps back. It was these few steps that saved his life. Boom! Vanderdecken didn't even realize what was happening, and the ear-piercing roar pierced his eardrums in an instant. The pirate ship that he was so proud of began to collapse like dregs of tofu. Under Vanderdecken's extremely horrified expression, a huge axe came towards him, wrapped in splinters of wood and blood. Then he stopped almost 10 centimeters between his legs. Vanderdecken is going to pee with fear. Just a little bit closer. If I hadn't hid a few steps back, or if there hadn't been a pirate ship blocking my way. Facing the fear of death is often unbearable. Vanderdecken's mind goes blank, and he has no time to even pay attention to his subordinates who died tragically not far away from him. He just stared blankly at the giant axe in front of him. It wasn't until a long time passed that Vanderdyken let out a breath of shock. How is this possible? Really thrown back. Who on earth has such ability? Fear, shock, and fear were intertwined, and Vanderdyken's mind was in a state of mush. Until a certain moment, a crazy laughter came from a dark corner of the damaged pirate ship. Ha ha ha. Isn't this very interesting? It seems that a great guy is coming. It's time for our plan to start. 2 flowers bloom, one on each side. Meanwhile, in Shirahoshi's bedroom, wow. Completely unaware of what was happening at Vanderdecken, Lin Yan was looking helplessly at Shirahoshi, who was crying in front of him. A child? Oh, he is indeed a child. That's okay. No matter who you are, there are things that you are not good at dealing with, and as we all know, the thing that Lin Yan is not good at dealing with is girls' tears. And Shirahoshi's cry is so wonderful, just imagine it. A girl who is as tall as a giant is holding you with one hand while wiping her eyes with the other hand and crying. That good guy's series of tears could probably drown an ordinary person. One thing is that Lin Yan is really worried about whether Shirahoshi will use himself as a handkerchief when he cries emotionally. And it's not an option to keep crying like this, right? Watching as time went by, Shirahoshi not only showed no intention of keeping quiet, but his cries became more and more shocking. Even Lin Yan felt that he was starting to have a toothache. So although I couldn't bear to bother, Lin Yan couldn't help but scratch his head. Well, the matter has been resolved, calm down? Wow. I'm so scared. Hearing Lin Yan speak, Shirahoshi seemed to have grasped a life-saving straw. He immediately looked at Lin Yan in his hand with tears in his eyes and cried. Lin Yan understood this. Although as far as Shirahoshi's Kakuzu is concerned, she and Lin Yan met for the first time today. But Lin Yan is very familiar with the Shirahoshi in front of him. Naturally, I also know what kind of character Shirahoshi is. Although it has a huge body that ranks first among the mermaids, it also possesses the power of Poseidon, an ancient weapon. But in essence, Shirahoshi is actually a very timid and naive person. This is also a matter of course. Since birth, Shirahoshi has lived a life of isolation, especially after the death of his mother, coupled with a petty threat. Shirahoshi has never left this tower from beginning to end. She hadn't seen anything at all. He knows almost nothing about the outside world, so he naturally has the purest kindness towards people. This is also the most endearing thing about Shirahoshi. So looking at Shirahoshi like this, Lin Yan couldn't help but laugh. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Did I tell you before? I was invited by your father to protect you. As long as I am here, you will not be in danger. This is my first time dealing with a girl like Shirahoshi. Lin Yan made his tone as gentle as possible and comforted Shirahoshi in front of him in a soft voice. After all, as we all know, Lin Yan is not some rubber boy with basically no emotional intelligence. It is still possible to simply comfort someone. Really? Lin Yan's comfort worked quickly. After hearing Lin Yan's words, Shirahoshi sniffed hard, and then looked pitifully at Lin Yan in his hand. It seems that he already relies on the other party. It's too easy to trust others. Lin Yan shook his head helplessly, but when he saw Shirahoshi believing in him without hesitation, Lin Yan was still very relaxed. Okay, it won't look good if you cry anymore. By the way, didn't you say you would treat me to dinner before? Then go ahead. Lin Yan smiled at Shirahoshi. Yes, only then did Shirahoshi snap his head and remember this, with a happy smile on his pretty face. Innocent girlish emotions always come and go quickly, and now Shirahoshi has regarded Lin Yan as a being to protect him. In her very simple mind, there was no such thing as reservation. Faced with such Shirahoshi, Lin Yan didn't know what to say. So the next thing became very simple. The two people quickly forgot about a certain trivial matter, and Lin Yan also began to enjoy the feast Shirahoshi prepared for himself. Then at a certain moment, Lin Yan's movements stopped slightly. Why are you just looking at me? The sight was simply too intense. While he was eating, Shirahoshi didn't move at all. He just held his cheeks with both hands and stared at Lin Yan with his big eyes blinking. There was a mixture of curiosity and happiness in his sight, so intense that it was almost impossible to ignore. In view of this, Lin Yan had no choice but to stop his knife and fork and ask Shirahoshi. Because I'm not hungry, Shirahoshi answered naturally. And this is my first time seeing humans eating, so I couldn't help but. I'm sorry, did I scare you? As he spoke, Jonin couldn't help but reveal an apologetic expression on the girl's face. It doesn't matter. And looking at Shirahoshi like this, how could Lin Yan be so cruel as to blame him? In the end, he could only shake his head helplessly. Isn't this girl a little too cute? Lin Yan couldn't help but think like this. Although it is well known that strong men in the pirate world are good eaters, the portion of food prepared for Shirahoshi was still a bit outrageous. Soon, Lin Yan stopped holding the knife and fork in his hand. Have you eaten enough? Shirahoshi, who had been observing Lin Yan, immediately asked. Well, thanks for the treat. Lin Yan nodded with a smile, looked at Shirahoshi for a moment, and then spoke slowly. We humans usually pay attention to repaying kindness, so Shirahoshi, is there anything you want to do? As long as it doesn't violate the principles, I can help you do it. Lin Yan said to Shirahoshi seriously. Not to mention that when I read the comics before, I was deeply impressed by the Shirahoshi in front of me. In this brief exchange, Lin Yan now also has a good impression of Shirahoshi. To repay the girl in front of me, Lin Yan is not stingy. Especially considering what is about to happen next. Really, he didn't notice Lin Yan's twinkling eyes at all. When the boy said this, Shirahoshi's eyes suddenly lit up. Naturally, I believe Lin Yan's words deeply. Well, it's true, so is there anything you want to do? Yes. Well, Lin Yan, can you take me to see the outside world? Shirahoshi had a happy smile on his pretty face and said to Lin Yan without any unnecessary considerations. This has been her long-held dream. Leave this tower and see the outside world. Shirahoshi simply had this simple wish, to see the outside world that his important mother worked so hard for. This answer was not what Lin Yan expected. In view of this, Lin Yan nodded readily. That's no problem, but it's hard to hide when you go out like this, right? Is there any way? Yes. Hearing Lin Yan's inquiry, Shirahoshi tilted his head and thought for a moment, then under Lin Yan's somewhat surprised eyes, he stretched out his hand to call the shark who had been watching beside him before. Murmur. I don't know what Shirahoshi said in the shark's ear. The shark's face first showed a very human expression of embarrassment, but in the end he nodded. Great. Thank you. Hey. Then Shirahoshi immediately took action. Under Lin Yan's slightly twitching mouth corners and strange eyes, the huge Shirahoshi actually got into the shark's mouth. Lin Yan can't understand. But Lin Yan was shocked. How did this damn stuff get inserted? I don't understand. Seeing Shirahoshi sticking his head out of the shark's mouth, his pretty face was filled with a happy smile, while the shark looked like he was about to be suffocated to death. Even Lin Yan couldn't help laughing for a moment. Okay, the comedy effect is very strong. Then soon, Lin Yan couldn't laugh anymore. Lin Yan. Come here quickly. Shirahoshi, who was smiling coquettishly in the shark's mouth, suddenly stretched out his arm towards him. The expression on Lin Yan's face suddenly froze. After hesitating for a moment, he still walked over helplessly. Then as expected, Lin Yan was quickly caught by Shirahoshi, and then stuffed into the shark's mouth with a happy face. As for where exactly, it's better not to know. The touch was just like fine silk. For a moment, even Lin Yan's expression couldn't help but become a little weird. One thing to say, it seems like this is the first time he has been treated like this. It's just that Shirahoshi, who was in a state of excitement, didn't notice this, or in other words, there was no such concept in the girl's little mind. After placing Lin Yan, Shirahoshi immediately spoke happily. Set off. The shark, who was about to choke to death, reluctantly nodded his head, closed his mouth with great difficulty, and then led the two of them to swim out of the tower where Shirahoshi lived. All this without anyone noticing. Even the guards near the tower only glanced at it and then looked away. After all, this shark ran out alone not once or twice. And who could have imagined that Princess Shirahoshi and Lin Yan were hiding in the shark's mouth at this time? And they're right next to each other. As we all know, when vision is covered by darkness, people's other senses will be infinitely magnified. At this moment, Lin Yan's feeling was very subtle. There is a saying, who can withstand this? Fortunately, this situation did not last long. Once it left the vicinity of the tower, the shark would open its mouth again. Shirahoshi also stuck his head out with curiosity. Is this the outside world? The girl's voice was full of emotion. This is also a matter of course. Even though it was just the sight of the Fishman Island in front of him, in the eyes of Shirahoshi, who had always lived in a tower, the last time he saw this scene was a childhood memory. Look at the Fishman Island, which looks like a morning star in the deep sea. Shirahoshi naturally couldn't help but be moved. Then of course, I also have greater expectations for the broader world outside. I don't know what the sunshine in my mother's mouth looks like. Shirahoshi thought with great anticipation. The girl's eyes were tightly locked on the Fishman Island beneath her, and her beautiful eyes were full of bright light. Lin Yan had no intention of disturbing Shirahoshi at this time. As mentioned before, this is the simplest wish in a girl's heart. Shirahoshi looked at the Fishman Island in front of him. It was not until a long time passed that he reluctantly looked back and looked down at Lin Yan, who was next to him. Well, there's a place I want to visit anyway, is that okay? Shirahoshi asked Lin Yan cautiously. A pair of beautiful eyes looked a little embarrassed, and of course Lin Yan had no intention of refusing. He could also guess where Shirahoshi was talking about. Of course. I'm here to accompany you to protect you. You don't have to worry about me wherever you go. Lin Yan said to Shirahoshi with a smile. Hearing this, Shirahoshi's eyes flashed with emotion, and then he nodded heavily to Lin Yan. So the matter was decided simply. Shirahoshi took one last longing look at the Fishman Island in front of him, and then reached out and patted the shark on the head. Sharks also understand. Soon he turned back and took the two of them towards somewhere outside the Fishman Island. It can be said that the journey was uneventful. The shark just led the two of them around openly without attracting anyone's attention. You must know that this is the Fishman Island. There are not many aquariums like sharks, and no one has the time to pay attention to them. In view of this, the two quickly arrived at their destination. This is a cemetery. Surrounded by flowers, there is a portrait in the most conspicuous place, and nothing else. It's not luxurious at all, it can even be said to be a bit simple. The existence of this cemetery. It is now taboo on the entire the Fishman Island. More than 10 years ago, there was an extremely brave and kind-hearted woman who, although she was powerless, stood up for the future of the next generation. She shouted that the hatred between humans and murlocs should not continue. It's her presence. Let the fish people see the dawn of peace for the first time. However, the ending is tragic. After all, Princess Otahime underestimated how dark a person's heart can be, and lost her life in an accident, without any precautions. From then on, the Fishman Island began to close. The estrangement also deepened with her death. Over time, this place became a forbidden area for the Fishman Island. The person buried here is Shirahoshi's mother. He is also the most important and cherished person to Shirahoshi. Coming out of the shark's mouth, Lin Yan stood in the distance with no intention of disturbing Shirahoshi. What the girl needs at this time is definitely not comfort. It's a quiet corner where you can talk. Lin Yan understands this clearly. In view of this, from the beginning to the end, Lin Yan had no intention of getting close, and he didn't even pay attention to Shirahoshi. He just raised his eyes and looked at the Fishman Island looming in the distance. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know how long it took, but there was a slight sound behind me. Lin Yan then calmed down and turned his head, looking at Shirahoshi who had appeared behind him. Done? Shirahoshi nodded slightly. Although there were still tears in the corners of the girl's eyes at this moment, but whether it was an illusion or not, Lin Yan always felt that the Shirahoshi in front of her was much more mature than before. After staring at Shirahoshi for a while, Lin Yan didn't have any extra words to say in the end. He just waved to the girl and then turned around and walked towards the shark. Then let's go back. If that guy Neptune knew you were brought out by me, who knows what he would do? Hearing what Lin Yan said, Shirahoshi couldn't help but smile again on his pretty face. Father is not like what you said, Shirahoshi retorted to Lin Yan coquettishly. Lin Yan was noncommittal about this. There was no words for the whole journey, and the shark again reluctantly put Shirahoshi and Lin Yan into its mouth, and then swam leisurely towards the Fishman Island. It's just a little different than when I came here. On the way back, Shirahoshi became unusually silent. Lin Yan can also understand the girl's mood at this moment. He is not a man of many words, and he deliberately planned to leave Shirahoshi room to think, so he remained taciturn along the way. Logically speaking, as long as the next two people ride the shark back to the tower without anyone noticing, everything will be as if nothing happened. Lin Yan can also be free to deal with the upcoming changes in the Fishman Island. However, when the shark slowly swam to the largest square of the Fishman Island, the trouble still happened. This is a matter of course. This is just a shark, not a universal space pocket. It is very reluctant to contain Shirahoshi and Lin Yan. Went back and forth and ran a lot. So here, the shark finally couldn't hold it any longer. Tisk. Then, accompanied by Shirahoshi's exclamation and Lin Yan's smacking of lips, the sound of two heavy objects falling to the ground suddenly came from the center of the square. Everyone's eyes were attracted at this moment. Yes, it's the princess. Why does the princess appear here? The fishmen passing by asked questions one after another. You must know that even as residents of the Fishman Island, they don't know how long they haven't seen Shirahoshi. Seeing Shirahoshi at this moment naturally caused a huge commotion immediately. Look. There is a human next to the princess. Then I don't know who was more discerning and saw Lin Yan next to Shirahoshi. Suddenly, the eyes of all the fishmen became fierce. The princess, who had been reclusive all this time, appeared in the square. There was a human beside him. So just a guess. No, just a reasonable guess. Damn it, the princess must have been kidnapped. Damn humans. One of the fishmen who thought quickly suddenly realized what he was doing, and he let out a roar and rushed towards this direction. However, before he could take action, a fishman next to him gave him a headbutt. You're stupid, aren't you? That's Lord Lin Yan. Oh Master Lin Yan. It's okay then. Master Lin Yan must have taken the princess out to play, right? It's time to go. Yes, don't disturb others. The fish people breathed a sigh of relief. After seeing Lin Yan's appearance clearly, they no longer looked full of hostility as before. This is the most real current situation of the Fishmen Island. After all, ultimate evil and ultimate good are both very few things. Most people in this world are just neutral between good and evil. Commonly known as the silent majority. Most ordinary people have good intentions in their hearts and are not evil by nature, but they can become evil people under the instigation of others or under certain circumstances. This is true for humans, and so is the Murloc. In Lin Yan's view, how to guide these silent majority onto the right path is the true meaning of governance. Princess Odahime underestimated evil and misjudged this. That's what will happen in the end. Thinking about it, Lin Yan shook his head and turned to look at Shirahoshi beside him. Are you okay? No, it's okay. Shirahoshi shook his head in a daze and replied. Although there was no harm done, Shirahoshi's head was still a little dizzy after falling out of the shark's mouth unexpectedly. Shirahoshi didn't look strange. Lin Yan nodded. Well, it seems I can't explain it now. Anyway, let's go back first. I'll take care of Neptune. Lin Yan shook his head as he looked helplessly at the fishman who was still looking over at him even though he was some distance away. After all, she is also the princess of the Fishmen Island. It is natural to receive attention, and even if she is not the princess. Shirahoshi's huge size can be called a wonder. Shirahoshi responded. Obviously she was also very uncomfortable with the current situation, and she immediately agreed after hearing Lin Yan's words. However, just at the moment when Shirahoshi was about to follow Lin Yan, not far from the square, there was a sudden commotion. Lin Yan's perception was so sharp that he looked in the direction of the sound source almost the moment the commotion occurred. Immediately, an interesting expression appeared on his face. I see. Is this a move in advance? As soon as Lin Yan said these words, the panicked roars of the fish people rang out around him. Humans? Why are there humans here? Quick! Guard the city gate. Damn humans, how on earth did you get in? Everyone's expressions changed drastically. Are there humans in the Fishmen Island? Realizing this, all the fishmen couldn't help but tremble. Even Shirahoshi's expression changed drastically, and he wanted to rush towards the palace desperately, but was held back by Lin Yan. Calm down Shirahoshi, they're just some small fish and shrimps. Lin Yan looked helplessly at Shirahoshi's anxious look. There is no doubt about the current situation. It was probably because of the incident where he threw the axe back before. Some two people felt threatened and couldn't hold back. In other words, the plot of the Fishmen Island in the original work seems to have officially begun. But it's not bad. As said before, the Fishmen Island is the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. How can we allow small fish and shrimps to jump around here? Lin Yan came to the Fishmen Island this time. In addition to the Poseidon matter, he also wanted to solve these two scourges. Saw this scene at this time. Lin Yan said he was emotionally stable. But Shirahoshi seemed to want to say something, but before the girl could speak, an artificial voice suddenly came from not far away. Shirahoshi, long time no see. Even Lin Yan showed a disgusted expression. The guy not far away was dressed in a very standard pirate outfit, with a small top hat on his head and two mustaches on his face, looking like a gentleman who was pretending to be polite. But the look in his eyes was very disgusting. Seeing this man, Shirahoshi immediately had a look of horror on his face. You are. That's right, my dear Princess Shirahoshi. I am Vanderdaken Ix. I'm sorry to bother you. In fact, I'm here to propose this time. PFFT? Seeing that Shirahoshi recognized him, Vanderdaken had a proud expression on his face. Then he immediately prepared to propose to Shirahoshi, whom he had been entangled with for 10 years. It turned out that he hadn't finished speaking yet. Suddenly I saw a foot getting bigger and bigger before my eyes. Boom, there was no resistance at all, accompanied by roars and Vanderdaken's miserable howls. Lin Yan kicked this guy right in the face. Climb. Poor Vanderdaken instantly turned into a shooting star in the sky. I don't know if it just died. After doing all this, Lin Yan even rubbed his shoes on the ground with some disgust, as if Vanderdyken's face was something dirty. The Fishmen Island crowd, Shirahoshi. No, is Master Lin Yan so irritable? It hurts to look at it. The surrounding murlocs swallowed their saliva and subconsciously distanced themselves from Lin Yan. After all, everyone saw the way Vanderdecken flew out before. No one dares to provoke Lin Yan at this time. And Shirahoshi was stunned for a moment. Subconsciously, he quietly grabbed Lin Yan's clothes. Aha! Shirahoshi didn't know what was wrong with him. He just pulled the corner of Lin Yan's clothes and immediately felt a huge sense of security. He couldn't help but exhale softly. In Shirahoshi's eyes, Lin Yan kicked Vanderdecken away. He is already his own guardian angel. Even the mood that had been flustered by the appearance of humans before had calmed down incredibly. Lin Yan didn't notice anything unusual about Shirahoshi. Sensing the hem of his clothes being tugged, Lin Yan turned his head and saw that Shirahoshi had calmed down, and couldn't help but smile softly. A little calmer. But what to do next? Shirahoshi nodded heavily at first, then looked at Lin Yan and asked somewhat sadly. Heard Shirahoshi ask. Lin Yan touched his chin and pondered for a moment before speaking slowly. Go back to the hard shell tower. This is undoubtedly a rather counterintuitive decision. After all, logically speaking, it is the royal city of the Fishmen Island that is in crisis now. Seeing those humans about to open the gate of the royal city, Lin Yan pulled Shirahoshi to the hard shell tower. Generally speaking, shouldn't we go to save the royal city first at this time? If it were an ordinary girl, she would refute it at this time. But Shirahoshi has complete trust in Lin Yan. So after hearing Lin Yan's suggestion, Shirahoshi nodded without hesitation, then took the initiative to hold Lin Yan in his hands and swam towards his home quickly. There was no doubt at all. Seeing this, Lin Yan nodded with satisfaction. The journey was uneventful, and soon Lin Yan and Shirahoshi arrived at the hard shell tower. Master Lin Yan, you are indeed here. As soon as the two of them arrived, under Shirahoshi's somewhat surprised look, Neptune rushed over with Fisher Tiger, Jinbei, and an elite group of fishmen. It seems that it is better to arrive early than to arrive late. Seeing Lin Yan and Shirahoshi standing at the door, Neptune's expression suddenly became happy. He waved to Lin Yan without hesitation. When he noticed that Shirahoshi was holding Lin Yan, Neptune's expression suddenly became extremely strange. Shirahoshi. Why did you come out? Neptune asked his daughter with some confusion. After all, looking at the two people, they must have just come back from outside. But if he remembered correctly, wasn't Shirahoshi supposed to stay in the hard shell tower all the time? Think of this. Neptune's eyes suddenly became strange when he looked at the two of them. Shouldn't I? Hearing Neptune in front of her ask this question, Shirahoshi couldn't help but have a flash of panic on her pretty face. She has not been a good liar ever since she was a child. Ahem. Anyway, let's talk about this later. Speaking of which, what's going on at the palace? Fortunately, Lin Yan finally spoke up to smooth things over. This made Shirahoshi sigh in relief. Oh yes. We were about to talk to you about this, Mr. Lin Yan. Hearing Lin Yan ask this, Neptune slapped his head and stopped worrying about the matter between Shirahoshi and Lin Yan, and then briefly talked about the current situation. Because those humans appeared too suddenly. As a result, the Fishmen Island had no defense at all. So at the critical moment, Neptune made a decisive decision to give up treating the palace as a battlefield, and then withdrew a group of elites from the Fishmen Island from the palace and came here to find Lin Yan. If nothing else happens, the palace should have been occupied by thieves now, right? Having said this, Neptune showed a very unwilling expression on his face. But Lin Yan nodded. Pretty much what I expected. You must know that in the original plot, the Fishmen Island also had such a scene. Neptune's decision was similar to now, except that he led people to escape at that time. Now, Neptune obviously has a better choice. Come find yourself. You must know that now you are the fifth emperor of the sea and the nominal protector of the Fishmen Island. If Neptune doesn't come to find you, then you are really out of your mind. This is also the reason why Lin Yan took Shirahoshi back to the hard shell tower. Is this the power behind you that you can gather now? Under Neptune's somewhat puzzled eyes, Lin Yan nodded with satisfaction and then asked such a question. Hearing this, for a moment, Jonin couldn't help flashing a hint of embarrassment on Neptune's face, but in the end he nodded honestly. Well, because time is short, this is the greatest strength we can muster. Well, I understand. This answer is not surprising at all. Lin Yan said he was emotionally stable, so the current situation becomes very simple. The elite forces of the Fishmen Island are here, Neptune as the king is here, and most importantly, Shirahoshi is also here. In other words, This place has become a target for thieves. So the preparations Lin Yan needs to make are very simple. In short, let everyone take a rest first. If nothing else happens, we will face many enemies next. Looking at Neptune with a confused expression in front of him, Lin Yan said this in an understatement. Master Lin Yan, you mean? As a king, Neptune was naturally not a fool. When he heard Lin Yan's words, he was just stunned for a moment and then quickly reacted, and the expression on his face changed slightly. Immediately afterwards, the king gave the order without hesitation. Gentlemen, stay where you are and be on guard. Tiger and Jinbei, you two are coming with me. With that said, Neptune took Fisher Tiger and Jinbei and followed Lin Yan into the hard-shell tower. Everyone looked at each other. It seems that he doesn't understand why his king is facing a powerful enemy. Hasn't everyone already escaped? But due to the order, no one said anything. They are worthy of being the elite of the Fishman Island, and their quality is quite strong. They were quickly deployed according to Neptune's order, and the entire hard-shell tower was included in the defense range. On the other side, everyone has arrived at Shirahoshi's room. Master Lin Yan, there is something I want to ask no matter what. After glancing that there were no outsiders around him, Neptune finally couldn't bear it anymore and asked Lin Yan cautiously. About this current situation, Master Lin Yan, do you know anything? Neptune looked directly at Lin Yan in front of him. In fact, if you think about it carefully, you can understand what is wrong. Because Lin Yan didn't show any surprise when he saw him bringing someone over. Rather than saying it was a chance encounter, it would be better to say that he was waiting. When talking about the current situation on the Fishman Island, Lin Yan's expression did not waver at all. If you don't know anything, Neptune definitely didn't believe it anyway. Lin Yan acted too calm. It's like everything is under control. Well, I know a little bit about it, but in the end, it's still a problem left over from your previous generation. Faced with Neptune's careful inquiry, Lin Yan didn't mean to hide much. He nodded to Neptune first, and then asked everyone to sit down. Although everyone is a little confused, but seeing Lin Yan's expression become serious, he immediately sat down as he was told. The atmosphere suddenly became somewhat silent. Lin Yan looked at Neptune, Jinbei and Fisher Tiger in front of him. He didn't speak for a long time, seeming to be thinking about something. Lin Yan was seen showing rare seriousness. The three of them didn't dare to disturb him at all. Even Shirahoshi stopped talking, and all eyes were focused on Lin Yan for a moment. Forget it, it's too troublesome to explain, so I'll just say it. Then at a certain moment, Lin Yan finally spoke slowly. Then under the surprised looks of Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, Lin Yan's eyes suddenly focused on Neptune. Then he asked a question that made Neptune turn pale. Who else knows about Shirahoshi being Poseidon now besides you? Neptune stopped speaking instantly. Facing Lin Yan's serious inquiry, the king's face turned pale in a rare moment. He was silent for a long time before asking in a deep voice. Master Lin Yan, how do you know about this? I heard this from a very interesting person. Do you have any idea who said it? No. Not at all. The joking look on Neptune's face completely disappeared. He thought carefully for a long time, but finally shook his head helplessly. It can be said that he has no clue about this matter. Lin Yan was not surprised at all. Well, I can only say that that guy is really good at it. Lin Yan said this with a sigh. It should be said that it really deserves to be the original celestial dragons. As the head of the huge Don Quixote family, Doflamingo is really good at gathering intelligence. Even Neptune in front of him had no clue. Lin Yan couldn't help but think in his heart again that the importance of Doflamingo has increased to a new level. This guy is really undermining his talents by not being an intelligence dealer. Lin Yan thought thoughtfully. When Fisher Tiger and Jinbei on the other side heard this, they became uneasy. The two people stood up in a flash and looked at Shirahoshi not far away in disbelief. Poseidon. Neither of them are unknown people. They have at least heard of the legends of the three ancient weapons. Didn't expect one of them to be right in front of you? Shiro, Princess Shirahoshi is actually Poseidon. Now it makes sense. Fisher Tiger had an expression of amazement on his face. If it was for Poseidon, then it would make sense for the thieves to attack. But the problem is not without it. Quickly calming himself down, Fisher Tiger pondered for a moment, then suddenly raised his head and asked Lin Yan. But brother Lin, how did those people know? Fisher Tiger looked puzzled. After all, looking at the looks of Neptune and Lin Yan, there should be very few people who know about this matter. Why did the current enemy know about it and attack the Fishman Island? Faced with Fisher Tiger's question, Lin Yan just shrugged casually. Regarding this matter, we have to ask what happened more than 10 years ago. After hearing this, for a moment, Neptune's face became extremely ugly. The face of the king, who had always been very gentle, actually showed a rare expression of anger and sadness. Lin Yan turned a blind eye to this. Regarding the incident that happened more than 10 years ago, I am afraid that no one here knows the whole story better than him. Even Neptune didn't understand it. Fisher Tiger and Jinbei on the other side obviously saw something strange about Neptune, but they looked at each other and said nothing in the end. There is something unspeakable at this glance. And the two of them are not completely unaware. The atmosphere between the three people fell silent again. Then just as the air gradually began to suffocate, the door of the hard shell tower was suddenly opened. Fisher Tiger and Jinbei's eyes were suddenly startled, and they instinctively stood up. However, after hearing the next person's voice, they relaxed instantly. Lin, are you there? It seems to be very chaotic outside now. It turned out that 3 girls came back from shopping. Speaking of which, this is an unforeseen disaster. The 3 of them were wandering around the Fishmen Island in a good mood, trying various specialties of the Fishmen Island, but suddenly they became confused. Look at the ghostly appearance of the palace. The 3 of them made some calculations and decided that it would be better to come here first to find their own captain. So this happened. Now everyone is here. However, faced with the 3 girls' inquiries, Lin Yan did not answer immediately. Instead, as if he noticed something, he suddenly narrowed his eyes and looked out the door. Are you here? Tsk, this is a bit impatient. After saying that, Lin Yan stood up and walked towards the door. Everyone reacted immediately, looked at each other and followed Lin Yan's pace. Not long after, he followed Lin Yan out of the tower. The elite fishmen gathered here already looked as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Each one of them held their weapons tightly and their eyes were extremely solemn. The reason is also very simple. Because just a few hundred meters away from everyone, they were completely surrounded. A large number of humans and fishmen had appeared around the hard shell tower at some point, surrounding the place. And he looks fierce. At first glance, it's not a bad thing. Brother Lin. What should we do now? Seeing this scene, Fisher Tiger's expression also darkened, and he quietly approached Lin Yan and asked. It's nothing more than soldiers coming to cover up the water and earth. Lin Yan responded lightly. Then, under everyone's gaze, he slowly walked towards the opposite side. Don't worry, I'm here today and nothing will happen. The words were obviously quite calm, but they contained an indescribable momentum, as if those standing opposite were just a bunch of rotten fish and shrimps. This is the confidence of top strong men. As the saying goes, in a war, the general is the soul of the army. Why is this said? The reason is also very simple. When an absolute strong man stands at the front, he can continuously bring courage to those behind him. See this scene. Even the look on Neptune's face couldn't help but relax. The man in front of me, but the 5th emperor of the sea. That kind of momentum, as if one person can match thousands of troops, gave everyone including him a reassurance. On the other hand, facing Lin Yan who was walking slowly towards him, the other party became a little flustered. Lin Yan turned a blind eye to these looks. He just walked slowly, step by step, to the center of the battlefield, and then casually glanced at the enemy on the opposite side. Is there anyone who can speak? Lin Yan's tone was very light. But it happened so that everyone could hear it clearly. The sense of oppression caused by such an action is extremely huge. I don't know since when, the enemy who originally had a fierce look on his face actually started to retreat slowly. As if he was extremely afraid of the man in front of him. You. Sure enough, you were our biggest obstacle. It seemed that they realized that this was not going to work. Following a commotion, a man quickly walked out of the opponent's camp and cast a resentful look at Lin Yan. Not someone else. It was Vanderdecken X who had been kicked away by Lin Yan before. It's just that he looks very miserable now. Not to mention the bandages all over his body, even the deportment that he had been deliberately maintaining was completely lost at this moment. Vanderdecken looked at Lin Yan fiercely. It must be because of you. It's because of you Shirahoshi that you didn't accept my proposal. It seems like this guy attributes his failure to himself? However, facing Vanderdecken's fierce eyes, Lin Yan seemed not to notice it. He just stretched out his hand and yawned out of boredom. It's just a clown, no need to pay any attention to it. You're not qualified yet. Find someone who can really speak to you. Lin Yan said this in an understatement. From beginning to end, his eyes never moved to Vanderdecken. As said before, this guy is just a clown. Existing here has no other use than making people laugh. He is just a pathetic creature addicted to fantasy. No doubt. This is utter contempt. So of course, Vanderdecken was immediately irritated by Lin Yan's tone, with a fierce expression on his face. Give me. Ha ha ha. You are worthy of being the legendary captain of the 17th Division. Okay, don't embarrass yourself here. You can go down. I will take over next. But Vanderdyken wasn't done with his rant yet. I don't know which shadow it came from, but suddenly there was such a voice. The tone seemed very unacceptable. Vanderdyken's movements suddenly froze, and a hint of fear flashed across his originally arrogant face, and he actually retreated behind without saying a word. So, you are the mastermind this time? Until then. Lin Yan finally moved his eyes slightly and stared at the man who suddenly appeared with interest. This is a very tall fishman. Pale white skin, ferocious sharp teeth. This appearance alone has completely explained what it means to be vicious. I'm afraid it's the kind that would frighten children if placed in a storybook. And Lin Yan naturally recognizes this guy. Hody Jones? Why are you here? Before Lin Yan called out his name, Fisher Tiger on the other side couldn't help but screamed. The look in Hody Jones's eyes was filled with disbelief. As if he didn't expect so many people to know him today, Hody Jones first tilted his head in confusion. And when he saw Fisher Tiger's appearance clearly, a somewhat ferocious smile suddenly appeared on his face. Isn't this Brother Tiger? It must have been a long time since we last seen each other, right? I didn't expect you to still be alive. Hody Jones smiled at Fisher Tiger. The tone seemed quite familiar. For those who didn't know, I thought the two of them were very close friends. But looking at Hody Jones's ferocious smile, Fisher Tiger's expression darkened. Hody Jones, what do you want to do? Instead of using his previous nicknames for his brothers, Fisher Tiger just called Hody Jones' name dryly and asked. I already had a very bad feeling in my heart. Facts have proved that Fisher Tiger's ominous premonition was not groundless. Ha ha ha. Are you still asking me what I am doing now? As if he was laughing at Fisher Tiger, the fishman hero, Hody Jones suddenly laughed wildly. A bloody light flashed in the ferocious eyes. Brother Tiger, can't you see that now? Of course I want to destroy the Fishman Island. Hody Jones shouted. His demon-like posture was infinitely higher than the previous Vanderdyken. Even if they are fellow villains, the two people are not on the same level. Seeing this, Fisher Tiger's face finally darkened completely. But before Fisher Tiger could say anything more, Lin Yan waved his hand and interrupted the two of them. I tell you two, now shouldn't be the time to reminisce about old times, right? He raised his hand to signal Fisher Tiger to calm down. Lin Yan looked at Hody Jones in front of him with interest. I heard you were going to destroy the Fishman Island? Lin Yan touched his chin with interest. Do you know this is the territory of the Whitebeard pirates? Hearing Lin Yan ask this, Hody Jones hesitated for a moment, but soon, a ferocious smile appeared on his face. What's the difference? Well, that's true. To everyone's surprise, Lin Yan nodded in a serious manner in the face of Hody Jones' obvious provocation. You're not angry? Even Hody Jones was stunned at this moment. After all, the smell of gunpowder in his previous words was already quite strong, and he simply had the word provocation written on his face. Why is there no reaction at all? Could it be that the legendary captain of the 17th Division was actually a good-tempered peacemaker? Hody Jones thought this strangely. However, Lin Yan's expression remained very calm. What's there to be angry about? As if he didn't care at all about Hody Jones' previous provocation, Lin Yan shook his head lightly. It doesn't matter to me. After all, you are too weak. I don't even want to fight you if you are so weak. Have you ever seen a lion or an ant angry? This time, it was Hody Jones who was angered. Human. You succeeded in irritating me. Faced with Lin Yan's undisguised contempt, veins popped up on Hody Jones's forehead for a moment, and he looked like he wanted to eat Lin Yan alive in front of him. Unlike the silent majority, Hody Jones is one of the ultimate evil ones. A complete Murloc supremacist, and he has an extreme hatred for humans. They are completely different from small fish and shrimps like evil dragons. Although they have the same attitude towards humans, evil dragons are often very kind to fellow fishmen. But Hody Jones is more than that. Even when facing his fellow fishmen, Hody Jones would kill him without hesitation as long as he found any signs of talking to humans. In short, if a color could be used to describe a person's evil, then Hody Jones would undoubtedly be pitch black. This time he attacks the Fishman Island. His purpose is very clear. It is nothing more than to destroy Neptune's rule and then start a war with humans. It is conceivable how much Hody Jones hates human beings. And such Hody Jones. How can you tolerate Lin Yan's contempt? I want you to die. So in the next moment, Hody Jones took action without warning. Facing the human beings he hates the most, Hody Jones even forgot that Lin Yan was the 5th Emperor of the Sea. How could he be a weakling despite his fame? In other words, in Hody Jones's eyes, only fish people are the most powerful. His eyes could no longer hold anything but revenge and hatred. As Lin Yan gets closer and closer, the smile on Hody Jones's face also became more ferocious. He seemed to be able to see this human being brutally killed by him in the next second. However, facing Hody Jones' attack, Lin Yan didn't even bother to raise his eyelids. Allowing the opponent to attack him, Lin Yan yawned out of boredom. Too weak. Lin Yan didn't even bother to talk to Hody Jones. Weak. Too weak. Absolutely useless. This guy has a ferocious look, but his actual strength is not to mention comparable to those big pirates outside, and is even inferior to the ordinary captain of the Whitebeard pirates. Facing such an opponent, Lin Yan really couldn't arouse the slightest interest. He doesn't know who gave him the courage to provoke him. But now that we are here, then let's wake you up. So the next second, Lin Yan just raised his hand in boredom, and then slapped the plate on Hody Jones' face. Just like how he treated Vanderdecken before. Honestly speaking about these two things, Lin Yan really doesn't like anyone. Boom. So the next moment, Hody Jones, who had a proud smile on his face before, suddenly felt a huge force that he could not resist at all. Along with the severe pain on his cheek, his whole body flew backwards like a cannonball. Then under the dull eyes of everyone, he landed suddenly, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. To be fair, if he hadn't been a fishman after all, and his physical fitness was far stronger than that of an average human, the blow just now would have probably exploded. How could Lin Yan's slap be so easy to receive? Almost instantly, Hody Jones lost consciousness. Lin Yan, who had done all this, just yawned lazily again, as if he had just done a trivial thing before. As said before, as a lion, he is not angry with ants. This should be said to be worthy of Master Lin Yan, he is so resolute. Neptune looked at this scene dumbly, and after a while, he could only smile bitterly. This matter is obviously a big crisis for the Fishmen Island. The result is under Lin Yan's hands. Why does it look like it's just a small matter of picking up some trash? Can only say, he is indeed the fifth emperor of the sea, a person who can make even the world government extremely fearful. He had already turned a blind eye to this shocking sight. Lin Yan said he was emotionally stable. After dismissing Hody Jones casually, Lin Yan raised his eyes and stared at the remaining people with a calm expression. Want to die or live, it's your choice, still the same as before. It's not loud, but it's just right enough for everyone to hear. And this is not a negotiation, this is a notification. In an instant, cold sweat fell on someone's head, but what is strange is that everyone did not retreat, but stood firm in place. Ahem. We haven't lost yet. Then under Lin Yan's somewhat surprised eyes, Hody Jones, who was supposed to have lost consciousness, stood up reluctantly despite being supported by some unknown force. And at the same time, the look he looked at Lin Yan became even more disgusting. There is a saying that goes like this: the beast is most dangerous when it is injured and bleeding. And now Hody Jones. Nature fits this perfectly. Lin Yan looked at the man opposite him with interest, who was obviously bruised, but still insisted on standing up. You must know that even those generals who have been on the battlefield for a long time have a strong will. With such an injury, he shouldn't be able to stand up. But Hody Jones did it. It was only then that Lin Yan became slightly interested in the man in front of him, and narrowed his eyes to look at him. I see. Can you do this simply by relying on hatred? It's an amazing will, but it seems to be used in the wrong place. Lin Yan nodded slightly and said, no matter what kind of emotion it is, whether it is hatred or hatred. Once you are able to transform these emotions into tangible power, then it can only prove one thing. Those who achieve this have a strong will that far exceeds that of ordinary beings. For better or worse, very few people can do this. Lin Yan didn't care about what Hody Jones thought at all, but just the fact that the other party could stand up again was enough for Lin Yan to look at him differently. Of course, only slightly. Seeing Hody Jones in front of him clearly bleeding but refusing to fall down, Lin Yan reached out and touched his chin. You don't need me to remind you, right? Lin Yan said this calmly. If the attack continues here. Lin Yan's tone paused very subtly. You're going to die here. It was just a very calm tone, without much unnecessary emotional fluctuations. Lin Yan told the facts clearly. But even though Lin Yan's tone was very calm, anyone who heard this sentence still felt a chill from the soles of their feet to the sky. This man's attitude is getting a little serious. As said before, a lion will not be angry at an ant. This is undoubtedly contempt, but for ants, this is also a kind of happiness. And when it's really dangerous, exactly when the lion looked at the ant. In other words, Hody Jones's next move will directly determine whether he lives or dies. Lin Yan is serious. Suddenly, the long-lost fear struck Hody Jones's heart. Obviously Lin Yan just stood there and did nothing, but Hody Jones felt that if he dared to take a step forward, he would die completely. She couldn't remember the last time she felt like this. Right. That's that time. As if he thought of something interesting, the smile on the corner of Hody Jones's mouth turned ferocious again. Then under Lin Yan's silent gaze, Hody Jones gave his answer. The fishman is the strongest. How could I lose? After struggling to say such words, Hody Jones suddenly took out a handful of pills from his pocket, and then without looking at them, he just stuffed them into his mouth like he was swallowing pills. And then the next second, a sudden change occurred in him. Roar. The moment he swallowed the unknown pill, the expression on Hody Jones's face became extremely ferocious, as if he was enduring some great pain. The momentum all over his body also began to surge. In just a few seconds, Hody Jones transforms into a demon crawling out of hell. Human. Second round. Facing Lin Yan with a devil-like smile, Hody Jones smiled ferociously. Everything he could see was filled with deep-seated hatred for human beings. Lin Yan looked at Hody Jones like this, his expression neither sad nor happy, making it impossible to tell what he was thinking. Is it a dangerous medicine?